Hello there and welcome to Science for Sleep, the place where science settles down into a calm rhythm and curiosity becomes a gentle companion for rest. Tonight, I'd like to take you into one of the strangest corners of the human mind. Every night, when the lights fade and your body drifts into slumber, your brain begins a performance that is equal parts ordinary and extraordinary. It creates vivid images, strange stories, impossible events, and familiar faces mixed together in ways that often leave you waking with a question. Why did I dream that? Why did my brain choose those particular fragments of memory, those particular emotions, and arrange them into something so unusual? Dreams are such a common part of being human that it's easy to forget how strange they really are. You could say they are the one blockbuster show that plays in everyone's head, night after night, free of charge, with no ticket required. Sometimes they are pleasant. Sometimes they are unsettling. Sometimes they vanish the moment you open your eyes, and sometimes they cling to you for hours after waking. They can be so ordinary you hardly notice them, or so bizarre you wonder how your brain could possibly invent them at all. So tonight, let's set aside the waking world for a little while. Let's step quietly into that inner theatre and see what science has discovered about why your brain creates such wild and unpredictable stories every single night. Before we get too far, let me ask you something. Where are you listening from right now? Maybe you're lying in bed, letting the weight of the day slip away. Maybe you're on a sofa, lights low, listening in the quiet. Perhaps you're halfway across the world from me, hearing this in a completely different time zone. And maybe, just maybe, you've already had a dream tonight and will have another before the morning arrives. It's fascinating to think that while you're here listening, somewhere deep in your brain, circuits are already preparing to stage the next show. If you find this kind of exploration soothing or simply a good companion while you're winding down, I'd be grateful if you tapped the like button and subscribed. It helps this calm little corner reach others who might also be searching for something restful, curious, and steady to listen to at the end of a long day. Now, if you're ready, let's begin walking slowly into the world of dreams. Not rushing, not hurrying, just letting one idea lead to the next, the way thoughts drift before sleep. Dreaming, as ordinary as it seems, is one of the strangest features of human consciousness. Every night, when you lie down and close your eyes, your body shifts into stages of sleep. And during those stages, your brain does not shut off, not completely. Instead, it enters a cycle where some regions rest, while others become unexpectedly active. It is during these cycles that dreams take shape. But what is most curious is how your brain constructs them. Dreams aren't random noise. They aren't just static on the screen. They are structured enough that you can usually recall a narrative, at least fragments of one. They contain places, people, events, emotions, and actions that follow a kind of internal logic, even if it's a very unusual logic compared to waking life. Imagine your mind as a theatre. The stage is memory. The actors are emotions, thoughts, and fragments of daily life. The director is your sleeping brain, pulling pieces together into something that may or may not make sense when you wake. The script is never fixed. It changes night to night, sometimes within the same night, as if different parts of the brain take turns improvising. Scientists have been fascinated by this process for centuries. Ancient cultures thought dreams were messages from the gods or windows into the soul. Later thinkers suspected they might reveal hidden desires or secret fears. Modern neuroscience has given us new tools to peek behind the curtain, and what we've found is even more fascinating. Your dreams are not just random entertainment. They are the byproduct of your brain sorting, processing, and rehearsing the information of your life. They are linked to memory, emotion, learning, and survival in ways that are still being uncovered. Think about the last time you had a vivid dream. Maybe you dreamed of being late to school or work, even though you haven't been in that setting for years. Maybe you dreamed of flying or falling, two of the most common dream experiences across cultures. Maybe you dreamed of someone you know, but in a place that made no sense, like your childhood home combined with an airport. Those odd combinations are not accidents. They are clues to how your brain is mixing and reassembling information while you sleep. The brain does not dream randomly. It pulls from the raw material of your memories, your feelings, your recent experiences, and even long-buried fragments of the past. That's why you can sometimes see a face in a dream that you don't consciously recognize, only to realize later it belonged to someone you passed briefly on the street years ago. Your brain stores an incredible amount of detail, and dreaming is one way those details resurface. What makes dreams especially puzzling is the intensity of them. Even when they make no logical sense, they often feel emotionally powerful. You might wake up with your heart racing after a nightmare, or with a lingering sense of joy after a pleasant dream. That emotional charge is part of what makes dreams so memorable, at least for the few moments after waking. Scientists believe this is because the brain regions that process emotion, especially fear and pleasure, remain highly active during dreaming. In other words, your sleeping brain is not just filing information like a librarian. It is re-experiencing feelings, sometimes magnifying them, sometimes distorting them, but always weaving them into the story. This brings us back to the question, why does the brain bother with this at all? Why create such elaborate experiences when you are supposed to be resting? Some researchers argue that dreams help the brain process emotions, reducing stress and anxiety by letting you rehearse situations in a safe environment. Others suggest dreams help consolidate memories, strengthening the important ones and discarding the unnecessary ones. Still others see dreams as a kind of evolutionary training ground, a mental rehearsal space for threats and challenges. If you dream about running from danger, your brain might be preparing you in its own way for real-life survival. Whatever the precise reasons, one thing is clear: dreams are not meaningless. They are deeply connected to the way your mind functions, learns, and adapts. They are a nightly laboratory of the brain, a place where raw experience gets tested, reshaped, and stored. And while we don't yet have a complete explanation for every detail, what we do know is enough to show that your dreams are as much a part of your life as your waking thoughts, even if they fade quickly in the morning light. When you close your eyes at night and your body begins to sink into sleep, there is an almost silent shift happening deep inside your brain. Neurons change their firing patterns, brainwaves slow, then quicken again, and soon your mind is producing experiences that are as vivid as anything you could encounter in the waking world. It is such an ordinary part of human life that it rarely gets questioned. But if you stop to really think about it, the mystery becomes obvious. Why does the brain bother to dream at all? You might imagine that sleep would be simpler if it was only about shutting everything down, resting and conserving energy. That would be efficient, wouldn't it? Just turn off, recharge, and wake again. And yet, every night your brain devotes time and resources to generating strange experiences that feel real, even though they play out entirely within your head. The question of why we dream has been asked for as long as humans have had the ability to reflect on their own experiences. Ancient civilizations often saw dreams as messages, clues about the future, or insights from the divine. In those times, a dream was not thought of as random, but as guidance. As centuries passed, new theories emerged. Philosophers wondered if dreams revealed truths hidden during waking life. Later, psychologists speculated that dreams were expressions of unconscious desires, secret fears, or unresolved conflicts. Modern neuroscience has reframed the question in terms of biology. Instead of asking what dreams mean, researchers ask what function they serve for the brain itself. One of the strongest ideas is that dreams are involved in memory. Each day you encounter thousands of pieces of information. Most of it is unimportant, like what colour shirt a stranger wore on the subway, but some of it matters deeply. The brain cannot store everything with equal weight, so it needs to sort, strengthen, and sometimes erase. Sleep is when that sorting takes place, and dreams may be the visible surface of that deeper process. When you dream about taking an exam years after you've graduated, or about people you met long ago, it may not be because those events have special meaning. Instead, your brain could be reinforcing old networks, making sure information remains accessible even as newer experiences are added. But memory consolidation is only part of the picture. Another idea is that dreams help regulate emotions. The regions of the brain that process fear, joy, anger, and sadness remain especially active during dreaming. At the same time, the chemicals that trigger the stress response are lower while you sleep than when you are awake. This creates a kind of safe zone where you can rehearse frightening or challenging experiences without the full impact of stress. Think about the last nightmare you had. It may have been terrifying in the moment, but you woke safe in your bed. Your brain may have been running a simulation, giving you practice in handling danger, but without the risk. Over time, these simulations might help your waking self respond more calmly to real threats. Evolutionary theories build on this idea. For our ancestors, survival depended on anticipating danger. A rustle in the grass could mean a predator. A sudden sound could mean another human group nearby. The mind that could rehearse those possibilities, even in sleep, may have had an advantage. Dreams could have functioned as nightly training sessions, running through scenarios of escape, confrontation, or problem solving. Even today, people often dream about being chased, falling, or losing something vital. These themes might reflect ancient survival concerns that have carried forward into the modern mind. Another perspective is that dreams serve creativity. The dreaming brain is not bound by the strict logic of waking thought. It can combine memories, emotions, and images in novel ways. This may be why artists, writers, and scientists have sometimes drawn inspiration from dreams. The chemist Auguste Kekulé, for example, claimed that the circular structure of the benzene molecule came to him in a dream of a snake biting its tail. Paul McCartney said the melody of Yesterday appeared in a dream. These examples suggest that dreams might be a way the brain explores connections it would not otherwise see. A laboratory for ideas as much as for survival. Of course, not every dream produces a great invention or a timeless song. Most dreams are fragments, mundane or chaotic. But even those may serve a purpose. They may help clear out unnecessary thoughts, preventing your mental storage from becoming overloaded. You might think of it like the brain's nightly cleaning service, sweeping up clutter while you rest. Without this, your waking mind might be overwhelmed with too many irrelevant details. There is also the possibility that dreams are simply a byproduct of the sleeping brain. During certain stages of sleep, especially REM, your brain is highly active. Neurons fire in patterns that resemble wakefulness. Some scientists argue that dreams may just be the brain's attempt to make sense of this activity, weaving random signals into a coherent story. In this view, dreams may not have a specific function beyond reflecting the brain's natural processes. But even if that were the case, the experience of dreaming still influences how you feel and how you remember. That influence alone makes them significant. The truth may be that dreams serve multiple roles. They may be part memory rehearsal, part emotional regulation, part creative exploration, and part random noise. The brain is complex enough that one simple explanation is unlikely. What we do know is that people deprived of dreaming tend to suffer. When researchers interrupt REM sleep repeatedly, subjects become irritable, anxious, and struggle with memory. Their bodies show higher levels of stress. Their minds feel unsettled. This suggests that whether or not we fully understand their purpose, dreams are not expendable. The brain insists on them. Consider the structure of sleep itself. Humans cycle through stages, from light sleep to deep slow-wave sleep to REM sleep. Each cycle lasts about 90 minutes, and within each cycle, REM is when the most vivid dreams occur. If dreams were useless, it seems unlikely that evolution would preserve such a complicated rhythm. The fact that nearly all mammals experience REM suggests it is fundamental. Even newborns who have little memory to consolidate spend large portions of their sleep in REM. This points to a role in brain development. Perhaps dreaming helps wire the infant brain, preparing it for the flood of information that comes with waking life. As you think about why you dream, it's useful to remember that not all dreams are the same. Some are joyful, others frightening, some are fragmented, others vivid and coherent. This diversity may mirror the diversity of functions. Joyful dreams may help reinforce positive emotions. Frightening dreams may help process fear. Fragmented dreams may be simple housekeeping. Vivid ones may test memory or simulate experience. Rather than a single answer, the question of why the brain dreams may require many. Even if we could someday measure every neuron and trace every signal, dreams would likely remain mysterious in another sense. They are private experiences. Only you can recall what you dreamed. Science can record brain activity, but it cannot step inside your dream. That means dreams occupy a unique space. They are both biological events and personal stories. They are made of electrical impulses, but they are also made of meaning, at least for the dreamer. That meaning may be shaped by culture, memory, or imagination, but it is real in the way you experience it. So when you ask why the brain dreams at all, the answer may be as much about what it means to be human as about biology. Dreams reflect our need to remember, to prepare, to imagine, and to make sense of our lives. They may not be perfect rehearsals, and they may not always be pleasant, but they are one of the most consistent things our brains do. Each night, without effort, without planning, you enter a world created by your own mind. A world that exists for reasons science continues to uncover, and reasons that perhaps go beyond science into the territory of lived experience. As you listen now, you might recall your own strangest dream. Maybe it was a dream that made you laugh in the morning, or one that left you unsettled. You may wonder if it had meaning, if it reflected something hidden, or if it was just the mind playing. Whatever the case, it was your brain at work, doing something it has done for as long as humans have existed. Why the brain dreams at all may never have a single neat answer, but it is one of the clearest reminders that the mind is not just a machine for logic and memory. It is also a storyteller, a builder of worlds, and it chooses each night to tell a story only you will ever fully know. When people think about sleep, they often imagine it as a state of complete rest, the body shut down and the mind silent. But the truth is very different. Inside your head, sleep is not quiet at all. It is a complex cycle of shifting brain states, each with its own rhythm, chemistry, and electrical activity. And among all those stages, one stands out as the strangest and the most important for dreaming. That is the period known as rapid eye movement sleep, or REM. It is in this stage that the most vivid dreams unfold, the ones filled with colour, sound, and emotion, the ones that linger when you wake, sometimes making you wonder how your mind managed to invent such elaborate stories while your body was lying still. If you were to watch someone in REM sleep, you would notice their eyes darting back and forth under closed eyelids, as though scanning a scene. Their breathing would become irregular, sometimes shallow, sometimes deeper. Their heart rate would fluctuate as if responding to unseen events. Meanwhile, their brain activity would look surprisingly similar to wakefulness, with fast, low-amplitude waves, bursts of electrical signals, and a level of activity that contradicts the idea of rest. From the outside, they appear peaceful, but inside, their mind is staging something elaborate. That is why scientists often call REM the paradoxical stage of sleep. The body is paralyzed, yet the brain is alive with activity. One of the most curious features of REM is this paralysis. As the brain shifts into dreaming, signals are sent down the spinal cord to shut off most voluntary muscle activity. The purpose is protection. If you dreamed of running, jumping, or fighting without this safeguard, your body might actually attempt to act it out. Instead, the muscles are switched into a state of near-complete immobility, leaving only small twitches or movements. The exception is the eyes, which continue to dart, and the diaphragm, which keeps you breathing. Everything else is held still. In a way, REM is like being temporarily disconnected from the body, free to move in a dream world while the physical body remains anchored to safety. Yet not all of this paralysis is perfect. There are rare conditions such as REM sleep behavior disorder, where the paralysis is incomplete and people act out their dreams. They may punch, kick, or leap from bed, sometimes injuring themselves or their partners. These cases highlight just how powerful dream imagery can be. The brain is convinced enough by the dream scenario to drive the body into motion when the normal block on movement fails. For most people, though, the paralysis holds, keeping dreams contained within the theatre of the mind. Scientists studying REM often describe it as a stage where the brain becomes a rehearsal hall. Circuits linked to memory and learning light up, as if practicing the events of the day. At the same time, regions tied to emotion, particularly the amygdala and limbic system, are highly active. These structures regulate fear, pleasure, and emotional intensity, which is why REM dreams often carry such strong feelings. Whether it is a nightmare that jolts you awake or a joyful dream that leaves you smiling, the emotional vividness is no accident. The brain is not only reprocessing information, but also attaching emotional weight to it. Interestingly, the parts of the brain involved in rational thought, such as the prefrontal cortex, are much less active in REM. This may explain why dreams are often illogical or bizarre, yet feel believable while you're in them. Without the strict oversight of waking logic, the brain can allow impossible combinations and strange narratives to play out. A person can fly, time can bend, and places can merge without contradiction. In the dream, it feels coherent because the system that normally checks for consistency is quieter. When you wake, that logical oversight returns, and you realize how strange it all was. REM also seems to be essential for memory consolidation, particularly for skills and tasks. Studies have shown that people who are deprived of REM have more difficulty remembering complex information or performing learned skills. For example, someone learning to play a piece on the piano may improve more after a night rich in REM sleep than after one without it. The dreaming mind appears to replay and strengthen the pathways needed for learning. This suggests that REM is not just entertainment. It is an active process of building and refining the brain's networks. The cycles of REM follow a predictable pattern across the night. In the first half of sleep, deep, slow-wave sleep dominates, helping restore energy and repair the body. As the night goes on, REM periods grow longer and more frequent. By the early morning hours, they can last up to an hour at a time. This is why the dreams you remember most often occur closer to waking. Your brain spends more time in the vivid dream state just before the day begins. If you wake suddenly during REM, you're far more likely to recall the details. If you sleep through it, the dream may vanish into memory storage without ever reaching consciousness. Not only humans experience REM. Most mammals and even some birds show the same pattern of eye movements, brain activity, and muscle paralysis. This widespread presence suggests that REM serves a crucial biological role. Evolution tends not to preserve features that are useless. The fact that so many species retain REM points to its importance in survival, whether through memory, emotional regulation, or other processes still being uncovered. Even young animals display REM in abundance, reinforcing the idea that it may be vital for brain development. One fascinating aspect of REM is the way it interacts with mood. When people are deprived of it, irritability and anxiety rise quickly. In fact, disruptions to REM are linked to mood disorders such as depression. Some treatments for depression, such as antidepressant medications, also affect REM, leading scientists to explore the connection between dreaming and emotional health. While the exact relationship remains complex, the evidence suggests that REM acts as a kind of nightly therapy session, processing emotions in ways that help maintain balance. The strangeness of REM also becomes clear when you consider sleep paralysis, a phenomenon that occurs when the brain wakes before the body has released its grip on muscles. In those moments, people find themselves awake but unable to move, sometimes accompanied by vivid dream imagery that spills into waking consciousness. Throughout history, this experience has fueled stories of spirits, demons, or visitors because the sense of reality is so strong. Science now understands it as a misalignment between REM paralysis and waking, but the experience still shows how powerful the REM state can be. The chemistry of REM is another layer of its complexity. Neurotransmitters such as acetylcholine rise during this stage, stimulating the brain's activity, while others, like serotonin and norepinephrine, decrease. This unique chemical environment creates the conditions for both vivid imagery and emotional processing. It is almost like the brain shifts its balance of chemicals to support a very different mode of operation, one not suited for alert problem solving, but for creative recombination, emotional rehearsal, and memory weaving. Some researchers even suggest that REM is a testing ground for the brain's predictive abilities. In waking life, your brain constantly anticipates what might happen next, drawing on past experience to guide behavior. Dreams, especially in REM, may be a way of running simulations, testing scenarios, and refining those predictions. This might explain why dreams often involve challenges, threats, or unusual situations. They are practice runs, allowing your mind to explore possibilities without the real-world consequences. At the same time, the sheer oddity of REM dreams hints that not everything about them is purposeful. Some elements may be side effects of neural activity, the brain interpreting signals in whatever way it can. A burst of activation in the visual cortex may become a vivid image. A flicker in the auditory regions may become a voice. The brain does not like randomness, so it weaves these fragments into a story. Whether or not the story serves a direct function, it becomes the dream you experience. Despite decades of study, REM still holds mysteries. Why exactly the eyes move so rapidly remains uncertain. Some think the movements correspond to scanning dream imagery, as if the eyes are following the action of the internal movie. Others believe they are simply a byproduct of brainstem activity. Whatever the cause, the movements are one of the most visible signs that the brain is busy even in sleep. It is remarkable to think that every night, without your awareness, your brain stages this elaborate production. Actors drawn from memory, emotions that give the scenes weight, and a director that is both improvisational and precise. The theatre of REM may not always make sense, but it is consistent, reliable, and deeply embedded in your biology. You may wake puzzled, amused, or shaken, but the dream itself was part of a process that your brain considers vital enough to repeat night after night, year after year. As you let this sink in, imagine that even tonight as you drift off, your mind will cycle toward REM again. It will switch on the strange chemistry, paralyze your muscles, and light up your inner world with scenes that might surprise you. Perhaps they will echo today's experiences. Perhaps they will call back to long-forgotten memories. Or perhaps they will create something entirely new. Whatever they are, they will be yours alone, the product of your own unique brain in its nightly performance. When you wake from a dream and try to piece it together, one of the strangest parts is how familiar it often feels. The places, the faces, the objects that appear are almost never invented from scratch. They are borrowed, recycled, or stitched together from memories. A street you once walked down years ago appears connected to the kitchen of your childhood home. A classmate you have not thought about in decades shows up standing next to your current co-worker. A song you heard yesterday blends with a memory of sitting in your grandmother's living room. Dreams may look bizarre on the surface, but at their core, they are built from the raw material of memory. The question is how those memories slip into your sleeping mind and why they appear the way they do. The brain is constantly gathering information when you're awake. Every sight, sound, smell, and thought passes through neural filters. Some experiences are stored in short-term memory, others are processed into long-term memory, and most are discarded. But nothing is erased completely. Even small fragments of experience leave traces in your brain's networks. When sleep begins, those traces are reactivated. Electrical patterns sweep across the hippocampus, the region critical for memory consolidation, replaying events of the day in compressed bursts. It is as if your brain is fast-forwarding through your recent experiences, deciding which are worth saving. During this replay, pieces of memory can surface in dreams. If you spent hours learning a new skill, you might dream of practicing it. If you had an emotionally charged conversation, the faces and voices involved might appear. The brain does not insert memories whole. It breaks them into parts and recombines them. This is why a dream rarely looks like a direct replay of your day. Instead, fragments are mixed with older memories and with emotions that give them weight. Consider how often dreams involve school, exams, or classrooms, even long after you have left those environments. Those memories are deeply ingrained, tied to learning, anxiety, and growth. They form strong networks in the brain that are easily reactivated. When your mind searches for material to populate a dream, those networks offer abundant content. Similarly, places where you spent significant time, your childhood home, a favourite park, a workplace, appear again and again. Even if you have not thought about them consciously in years, the neural pathways remain strong enough to resurface. But memory does not enter dreams neutrally. It is filtered by emotion. The amygdala, one of the brain's key emotional centres, is highly active during dreaming. This means that memories tied to strong feelings are more likely to show up. An embarrassing moment, a frightening event, or a joyful celebration can reappear night after night. This emotional weighting explains why dreams often feel intense, even when they make no sense logically. Your brain is not interested in accuracy. It is interested in meaning and significance. There is also the question of time. Dreams frequently draw on recent experiences, often from the last day or two. Psychologists call this the day residue effect. If you watched a movie, spoke with a friend, or saw something unusual, it might sneak into your dreams almost immediately. But there is also what researchers call the dream lag effect, where experiences resurface about a week later. This suggests that memories continue to be processed over time, with some appearing in dreams only after the brain has had a chance to integrate them into long-term storage. Both effects show that memory and dreaming are closely linked in ways that stretch across days. Interestingly, not all dreams are accurate reflections of memory. They often distort or rearrange events. A real conversation might be replayed with different words. A familiar place might appear larger or smaller, brighter or darker. This distortion is not a flaw. It may be the brain's way of testing and reshaping memories, integrating them into broader networks. Think of it as editing rather than copying. The dream may look strange, but the process strengthens connections that help you remember and learn. Another striking feature is the presence of people you do not consciously recognize. Many dreamers report seeing strangers whose faces are vivid and detailed. Studies suggest that these faces are not invented. They are drawn from the vast catalogue of people you have seen, even if only briefly. A person you passed once in a grocery store may appear years later in a dream. Your brain is extraordinarily good at recording faces, and those images may remain stored in memory, resurfacing unexpectedly. Dreams, in this sense, are like collages, built from pieces of memory you did not even realize you kept. The role of the hippocampus in this process is critical. During REM sleep, the hippocampus communicates with the neocortex, replaying experiences so they can be stored more permanently. This back-and-forth exchange is like a conversation between short-term and long-term memory. Dreams are the conscious echo of that conversation. You're catching glimpses of the brain's filing process, seeing fragments of experiences as they are shuffled, sorted, and stored. At the same time, the brain does not just replay memories, it reshapes them. Synapses, the connections between neurons, are strengthened or weakened during sleep. This reshaping allows the brain to prioritize important information and discard what is less useful. Dreams may be the surface-level experience of this deeper restructuring. That is why a dream can contain something as trivial as a word you heard yesterday, mixed with something as important as a major life event. Both were being adjusted in memory, and both ended up on the dream stage. Dreams also play with context. A memory of sitting in a classroom may appear not as it actually happened, but merged with a memory of another place or time. This blending creates novel combinations that may not reflect reality, but do reflect how the brain stores information. Memories are not filed in neat boxes. They are distributed across networks connected by associations. When one network activates, it can trigger another. The result is a dream that feels like a patchwork, stitched together from overlapping circuits. This patchwork quality might explain why dreams can sometimes help with problem solving. By bringing together memories from different areas, the brain may discover new connections. A scientist dreams of molecules as shapes. A musician dreams of melodies. An artist dreams of colours and forms. The recombination of memory and dreams can lead to insights that would not emerge from logical waking thought. Even if most dreams are trivial, the potential for creativity is built into the way memory enters them. Cultural differences also shape how people interpret memories in dreams. In some societies, dreams are seen as direct messages, so memory fragments are treated as signs or warnings. In others, they are seen as random noise with little importance. But regardless of interpretation, the mechanism is the same. The brain uses what it already has, recycling experiences into new forms. Whether those forms are viewed as prophecy, therapy, or nonsense depends on cultural context. The forgetting of dreams is also tied to memory. Even when a dream feels vivid, most of it fades quickly upon waking. This is partly because the neurotransmitters involved in memory formation are at low levels during REM. The brain is busy processing memories, but it is not as focused on recording the dream itself. Unless you wake during or immediately after REM, the details slip away. Only fragments remain, sometimes just enough to remind you that the dream was strange or emotional. In this sense, dreams may be like scaffolding, used during the building of memory but dismantled once the structure is complete. It is worth noting that not all memories enter dreams equally. Procedural memories, like learning to ride a bike or play an instrument, often appear in subtle ways. You may not dream of the exact act of playing the piano, but you might dream of moving your fingers or hearing music. Emotional and declarative memories, on the other hand, show up more directly. An argument, a joyful reunion, or a stressful event can be replayed with clear imagery. The brain seems to prioritize memories with emotional weight, weaving them into dreams more often. As you reflect on your own dreams, you might notice this pattern. The people who show up, the places that appear, the emotions that dominate, they are not random. They are drawn from your personal archive, influenced by what mattered most in your recent and distant past. Even when they are rearranged into something absurd, they are still yours, shaped by the unique way your brain stores and retrieves experience. So when memories sneak into dreams, they are not just intrusions. They are the very fabric from which dreams are made. Without memory, there would be no material to build with. Your brain cannot invent entirely new faces, entirely new places, entirely new feelings. It must work with what it knows, stretching, distorting, and combining, until the result is something that feels both familiar and strange. That is the art of dreaming, and memory is its palette. When you think back to your own dreams, what often stays with you is not the exact details of where you were or what happened, but how you felt. You might wake with your heart racing, a sense of dread lingering from a nightmare. Or you might wake smiling faintly, remembering a dream that was comforting, even if the specifics fade quickly. That emotional intensity is not just an accident of dreaming. It is central to why your brain produces the kinds of stories it does at night. Emotions are woven into the fabric of dreams so tightly that they shape not only the content, but also the way you recall and respond to them. When neuroscientists look at brain activity during sleep, one of the most striking findings is the heightened role of emotional centers. The amygdala, which helps detect threats and regulate fear, is especially active in rapid eye movement sleep. The limbic system as a whole, which includes structures tied to joy, anger, sadness, and arousal, lights up during dreaming. Meanwhile, the regions linked to logical reasoning and executive control are quieter. This imbalance creates conditions where emotions are amplified, unchecked by rational filters. The result is a dream world where your feelings run the show. Take the example of a nightmare. You may be dreaming of being chased, falling, or trapped. The imagery may shift, the setting may be distorted, but the fear feels real. Your body reacts as if the danger were present. Heart pounding, breathing fast, sometimes even sweating. The dream has triggered the same networks that respond to real threats, but without the external cause. Some researchers argue that this is not a flaw but a function. By repeatedly simulating fearful situations, the brain may be preparing you to handle them better in waking life. This theory, sometimes called the threat simulation hypothesis, suggests that dreams serve as rehearsals. The emotional charge ensures that the rehearsal is memorable, even if you do not consciously recall it later. Not all emotions in dreams are negative. Joyful dreams can feel equally intense. Dreams of reunion with loved ones, of success, of flying, of laughter with friends. These activate reward centers in the brain, creating a sense of pleasure that lingers even after waking. Positive emotions in dreams may help reinforce social bonds and well-being. They may also balance out negative experiences, giving the brain a chance to process stress by contrasting it with moments of relief and happiness. One curious aspect of emotions in dreams is how they can be exaggerated. You may feel a minor annoyance during the day, but in the dream it becomes a dramatic conflict. You may feel a small joy while awake, but in the dream it becomes overwhelming euphoria. The absence of strong logical oversight allows these feelings to expand unchecked. In a way, dreaming is like turning up the volume on your emotional life. It lets you experience the raw strength of feelings without the same boundaries that exist when you are awake. Another striking feature is the way emotions can carry over into waking life. You may wake from a dream of betrayal and still feel angry at the person involved, even though you know it was only a dream. You may wake from a dream of loss and feel grief, or from a joyful dream and feel uplifted for hours. This carryover effect shows how deeply the brain treats dream emotions as real. The boundary between dream and waking is porous when it comes to feelings. That porousness may be part of why dreams play such an important role in emotional regulation. They give your brain a way to process feelings that might otherwise remain unaddressed. Some dreams seem designed to confront unresolved emotions. You may dream of someone you have not spoken to in years, especially if the relationship ended with tension. The brain may use the dream to revisit that emotional memory, not to relive it exactly, but to reshape it. By replaying the experience in a dream context, the brain may weaken its intensity, making it easier to handle in waking life. This aligns with studies showing that dreaming reduces the emotional charge of difficult memories, a process sometimes called overnight therapy. Even grief can find a place in dreams. People who lose loved ones often report vivid dreams of them. These dreams can be painful or comforting, sometimes both at once. From a neuroscientific perspective, these are memories reactivated by strong emotional circuits. But from a psychological perspective, they may serve as a way for the mind to process loss, to maintain connection, or to say goodbye. The emotional weight ensures that these dreams are remembered, even years later. Dreams also reflect your current mood. If you are stressed, anxious, or depressed, your dreams often mirror that state. They may involve more negative content, more threats, more failures. On the other hand, when you are happy or relaxed, your dreams may become lighter, more playful. This mirroring effect suggests that dreams do not just process past emotions. They also reflect present ones, reinforcing and perhaps regulating them. If you are overwhelmed, your dreams may give you practice in handling that feeling. If you are content, your dreams may deepen that sense of peace. The cultural interpretation of dream emotions is another layer. In some traditions, an angry dream might be seen as a warning, while in others it is seen as a release. A joyful dream might be taken as a blessing or a good omen. Regardless of interpretation, the fact remains that emotions dominate dream recall. You're more likely to remember a dream that carried strong feelings than one that was neutral. This bias ensures that the dreams most likely to stick with you are the ones that mattered emotionally. It is also worth noting that emotions can shift rapidly within a single dream. You may feel fear in one moment, relief in the next, confusion after that. These rapid shifts mirror the way neural activity fluctuates in REM sleep. They may also reflect the brain's attempt to weave together memories and feelings that do not naturally fit. In the absence of strict logic, emotions serve as the glue that holds the dream narrative together. There is evidence that the intensity of emotions in dreams changes across the night. Early in sleep, dreams may be less vivid and less emotional. As REM periods lengthen toward morning, the emotional charge increases. This may be why the dreams you recall upon waking often feel the strongest. Your brain has been building toward peak emotional processing in those final cycles. Dreams can also highlight emotions that you're not fully aware of when awake. Something you push aside during the day may resurface at night, magnified. A worry you try to ignore may reappear as a nightmare. A hope you barely admitted may appear as a joyful dream. In this sense, dreams can bring hidden emotions into awareness, even if only briefly. They reveal what your brain considers important enough to rehearse. Interestingly, not everyone experiences emotions in dreams the same way. Some people have more nightmares, others more positive dreams. Differences in brain chemistry, personality, and life experience all play a role. For example, people with higher baseline anxiety tend to report more threatening dreams. People with more optimistic temperaments report more joyful ones. This variability shows that the role of emotion in dreams is both universal and personal, shaped by both biology and individuality. The study of emotion in dreams has also revealed clinical implications. Nightmares are a common symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder. They are not random, but are tied to the emotional memory of trauma. In these cases, the brain seems unable to fully process the emotion, replaying it night after night. Therapies aimed at reducing nightmares often involve rescripting the dream or addressing the underlying emotional memory. This reinforces the idea that dreams and emotions are tightly linked, and that adjusting one can affect the other. But even outside of trauma, the emotional life of dreams is part of what makes them so memorable. Without the strong feelings, they would fade like any other random thought. Instead, they leave traces, sometimes shaping how you feel about people, situations, or even yourself. A single dream of success can boost confidence. A single nightmare can linger as unease. Emotions give dreams their power, making them more than just fragments of memory. Think for a moment about your most recent dream. You might not recall every detail, but you probably remember how it made you feel. That is the lasting imprint of emotion. It may not be accurate to the dream's events, but it is accurate to the experience. Your brain designed it that way, prioritizing feelings over facts, because feelings are what guide behavior and survival. In the end, the role of emotion in nighttime stories may be to ensure that your dreams serve their purpose, whether that purpose is to rehearse danger, reinforce joy, or simply keep your inner world balanced. If you pause to think about your dreams, one of the strangest contradictions is how utterly convincing they are while you're inside them, and how utterly illogical they appear once you wake. You might dream that you're standing in your kitchen, but instead of a refrigerator there is a staircase that leads directly into the sky. In the dream, this does not seem strange at all. You accept it without question, maybe even walk up the steps. Only when you open your eyes in the morning does it strike you as absurd. How can the same mind that sees through tricks and contradictions during the day accept such impossible realities at night? The answer lies in the way the brain shifts its balance during sleep. When you're awake, regions such as the prefrontal cortex are busy monitoring information, checking for logic, enforcing rules of reality. This is the part of your brain that notices when a puzzle piece does not fit, or when an argument lacks consistency. During REM sleep, that part of the brain becomes much less active. The circuits responsible for critical thinking and self-monitoring go quiet, leaving other regions free to create without restraint. That is why you can dream of people who have been gone for years, places that morph in impossible ways, or events that defy physics, and none of it seems out of place until later. Meanwhile, other brain regions become highly active. The visual cortex lights up, producing vivid images. The auditory regions produce voices, sounds, even music. The limbic system, including the amygdala, amplifies emotions. Together, these systems generate a world that feels as real as waking life. Your senses are engaged, your feelings are intense, and because your logical oversight is reduced, you do not question the inconsistencies. In that state, the dream feels real, not because it is accurate, but because your brain is treating it as experience rather than imagination. This also explains why dreams often shift abruptly from one scene to another. You may be at a party in one moment and running through a forest in the next without transition. In waking life, such jumps would be disorienting. In dreams, they are accepted because your brain is not applying the same standards of continuity. The narrative can skip, merge, or distort, and you still remain immersed. The suspension of disbelief is automatic. One of the most fascinating examples of this is the way people interact with impossible situations in dreams. You may find yourself flying and treat it as ordinary. You may breathe underwater without questioning how. You may talk to someone who speaks in nonsense, yet you understand them perfectly. These scenarios reveal how strongly the dreaming brain prioritizes immersion over logic. The experience feels real because all of your perceptual and emotional systems are engaged, even though the content itself defies the waking rules of reality. Research into lucid dreaming adds another layer. In lucid dreams, when you become aware that you are dreaming, the prefrontal cortex reactivates to some degree. Suddenly the dreamer can question the logic, recognize the absurdity, and sometimes even control the scenario. This shift demonstrates the role of critical oversight in determining how real or absurd a dream feels. Without it, you accept whatever the brain produces. With it, you regain the ability to reflect. The transition from non-lucid to lucid is like turning the lights back on in a theatre and realizing the stage sets are only props. But why does the brain allow dreams to feel so real if they are also so absurd? One explanation is that realism ensures that the dream serves its function. If the dream is a rehearsal for threats or a simulation for learning, it needs to feel real enough to engage emotional and behavioral systems. The absurdity may simply be a side effect of memory recombination, the brain stitching together fragments that do not perfectly fit. Another possibility is that absurdity itself has value. By presenting situations that defy expectation, the brain may encourage flexibility, creativity, and adaptability. In this way, even the strangest dreams may serve a purpose. Consider the way memory and imagination overlap in dreams. When you recall a memory while awake, you often know it is a memory. When you imagine something, you know it is imaginary. In dreams, that distinction collapses. The hippocampus and neocortex replay memory fragments, the visual cortex produces imagery, and the emotional centers add feeling. The brain does not label these inputs as memory or imagination. It treats them all as immediate experience. That is why you cannot tell the difference in the moment. The same circuits that convince you of reality during the day are convincing you at night, just without the logical filters. Another factor is the lack of sensory input from the outside world. When you're awake, your brain constantly cross-checks its internal models with sensory data. If something does not match, you notice. During sleep, sensory input is cut off. Your eyes are closed, your ears are less responsive, your body is paralyzed. The brain is left with its own activity, and with nothing to contradict it, the dream world becomes reality by default. Even if it is absurd, there is no external signal to prove otherwise. This blending of reality and absurdity may also explain why dreams can be so emotionally impactful. A dream of losing someone you love feels real enough to produce grief, even though you know upon waking that the person is alive. A dream of accomplishment feels real enough to boost your confidence, even though the event never happened. The realism ensures the emotional system responds fully. The absurdity may not matter to the emotional brain, which reacts to the feeling rather than the logic. There are also patterns to the absurdity. Certain themes appear across cultures and ages: flying, falling, being chased, losing teeth, appearing in public unprepared. These may reflect common anxieties or universal neural patterns. The content may be absurd, but the underlying feelings are not. Fear of failure, fear of exposure, desire for freedom, all are human experiences that the dream dramatizes in exaggerated or impossible forms. The absurd imagery is a mask over real emotional concerns. In some cases, the absurdity even enhances the realism. A dream may present you with a scenario so unusual that it forces your brain to engage fully. By making the situation strange, the brain ensures it captures attention. In this way, absurdity is not a flaw, but a feature, designed to make the dream more engaging, more memorable, or more emotionally effective. Interestingly, the line between real and absurd is sometimes blurred when you wake. You may recall a dream and for a moment believe it was real, only later realizing it was not. This confusion demonstrates how convincing dreams can be. The same circuits that ground you in reality during the day are active at night, creating a sense of presence, even when the content is impossible. The absurdity is revealed only when waking cognition returns. The neuroscience of this contradiction continues to be studied. Functional imaging shows that while the prefrontal cortex is quiet, other areas such as the parietal and temporal regions remain active, integrating sensory-like experiences. This combination creates a world that feels spatially coherent, even when it is not logically coherent. You may walk through a house that is a blend of many houses, yet it feels like a real location. You may talk to someone who changes appearance mid-conversation, yet you accept them as the same person. The brain is remarkably good at maintaining a sense of continuity even in the face of contradiction. Philosophers have long been fascinated by this problem. If dreams can feel so real, how do we know waking life is not also a dream? Thinkers from Descartes to modern cognitive scientists have wrestled with the possibility that reality itself might be just another convincing construction of the brain. While most agree that waking life is different, anchored by consistent sensory input and shared experience, the comparison underscores how powerful the brain's ability to generate convincing worlds really is. Children often blur this line even more. Young kids sometimes cannot distinguish dreams from reality, insisting that a nightmare creature is real or that a pleasant dream actually happened. This may reflect the same absence of logical oversight that characterizes adult dreaming, but in children, it extends further into waking life because their critical faculties are still developing. In this way, studying children's dreams provides insight into how the brain learns to separate real from imagined. Even in adults, the boundary is not always firm. Sleep paralysis, hypnagogic hallucinations, and other transitions between sleep and wake can allow dream imagery to spill into consciousness. These moments demonstrate how easily the brain can convince you of reality, even when the content is impossible. The absurdity is obvious later, but in the moment it feels real beyond question. As you think about your own dreams, notice this balance. They're convincing enough to feel real, but strange enough to surprise you. That balance is what makes them both puzzling and fascinating. They show the brain's ability to immerse itself fully in an experience, even when that experience bends or breaks every rule of waking logic. There are some dreams that visit you only once, strange fragments that appear and vanish without a trace. But then there are others, the ones that return, repeating themselves across months or even years. These recurring dreams are among the most puzzling experiences of sleep. You may dream again and again of being back in school, unprepared for an exam, even long after you graduated. You may dream of the same house, though it is not one you have ever seen in waking life. You may dream of falling, of being chased, of losing something important, and the story plays out in variations but never disappears. People who experience these dreams often wonder why their minds keep revisiting the same themes. Is there unfinished business? A hidden message? Or is it simply the way memory and emotion resurface in cycles? From a neuroscientific perspective, recurring dreams are tied to the persistence of certain memory networks. The brain does not store experiences in isolated compartments. Memories are organized into patterns and associations, and the ones that carry strong emotional weight, or that are frequently rehearsed, become especially robust. When sleep reactivates these networks, the same themes can appear repeatedly. If a particular fear or worry remains unresolved, it may trigger the same dream scenarios over and over because the brain continues to process the underlying emotion. Consider the classic example of the exam dream. Even people who have not been in school for decades often dream of arriving at class unprepared, or of sitting down for a test without knowing the answers. This is not because the brain is confused about time. It is because the experience of evaluation, of being judged, of facing pressure, is deeply ingrained. The neural networks that formed during years of school remain active, and whenever the brain rehearses stress or performance anxiety, those networks may provide the imagery. The dream is not about the exam itself. It is about the feeling of being unprepared or tested. Similarly, dreams of being chased are among the most common recurring themes across cultures. The pursuer may change, sometimes a stranger, sometimes an animal, sometimes something vague. But the core experience is the same. These dreams are tied to the brain's ancient survival circuits. Being pursued is one of the most basic threats an organism can face. The brain is wired to respond strongly to this scenario, and so it becomes a frequent theme when fear or anxiety needs processing. Recurrence in this case is not about literal pursuit, but about the repeated rehearsal of danger. Recurring dreams can also be connected to unresolved trauma. People who have experienced major loss, violence, or other distressing events often report the same dream replaying, sometimes with exact detail. In these cases, the brain seems to be stuck in a loop, unable to fully process the memory. Each night the trauma resurfaces, demanding attention. Over time, therapy and healing can reduce the frequency of these dreams, suggesting that the brain uses them as a way of attempting, however painfully, to work through overwhelming emotions. But not all recurring dreams are negative. Some people report recurring dreams of flying, of visiting the same fantastical place, or of meeting the same person. These dreams can be comforting, even eagerly anticipated. They may represent stable networks of positive memory, reinforced each time they appear. A recurring dream of flying may be linked to the brain's rehearsal of freedom and mastery, while a recurring dream of a specific place may reflect the consolidation of a safe or meaningful memory. One of the most intriguing aspects of recurring dreams is their consistency over time. You may grow older, move to new places, meet new people, and yet the same dream returns. This persistence suggests that the brain has certain preferred templates for processing experience. When confronted with stress, it may reach for the exam template. When processing danger, it may reach for the pursuit template. These templates become the skeletons onto which new experiences are attached. The dream feels the same, but the details are updated. Some researchers believe that recurring dreams highlight unfinished emotional work. If a particular fear or memory is not fully resolved, the brain continues to revisit it, trying different combinations, different scenarios, until some sense of resolution is achieved. Others argue that the recurrence is simply the result of strong memory traces. Networks that are easily activated will continue to produce the same imagery, regardless of whether resolution occurs. In either case, the repetition reveals how closely dreaming is tied to emotional life. It is worth noting that not all recurring dreams are exact copies. Often, they are variations on a theme. The house may look different each time but feel the same. The exam may change subjects but always carries the same anxiety. The pursuer may take different forms but always generates the same fear. This variability within repetition reflects how memory networks are reactivated. They are not static but flexible, combining old material with new. The recurrence lies in the emotional core, not in the surface details. Dream researchers also point out that recurring dreams often fade once the underlying issue is resolved. People who work through a major life stressor sometimes notice that the dream no longer returns. This supports the idea that the brain uses repetition as a form of processing. Once the work is done, the dream template may be retired, or at least visited less frequently. Recurring dreams are not confined to negative experiences either. Artists and thinkers have reported recurring creative dreams where the same image, melody, or idea appears night after night, sometimes leading to breakthroughs. These examples suggest that the repetition may serve not only emotional regulation, but also creativity. By revisiting the same imagery, the brain may strengthen connections that support insight or inspiration. Another dimension is cultural. Across societies, people report remarkably similar recurring dreams. Being unprepared, being chased, falling, losing teeth, appearing in public exposed. These themes show up everywhere. This suggests that the recurrence is not random, but grounded in universal human experiences and anxieties. The brain, regardless of culture, may fall back on these templates when processing certain emotions. Yet the interpretation differs. In some cultures, a recurring dream may be seen as a message or omen. In others, it may be dismissed as meaningless repetition. The mechanism, however, appears to be the same. Interestingly, recurring dreams can sometimes evolve into lucid dreams. Because the dream is familiar, the dreamer may begin to recognize it while it's happening, realizing that it is a dream. This recognition can shift the experience, allowing the dreamer to explore or even alter the scenario. In this way, the recurrence becomes an opportunity for awareness. It shows how repetition can open the door to control, turning what was once unsettling into a chance for exploration. The neuroscience behind this is still being explored. Functional imaging suggests that recurring dreams may involve the repeated activation of specific neural pathways, strengthened each time the dream occurs. This repetition reinforces the network, making the dream more likely to appear again. Over time, the loop can become self-sustaining. Breaking it may require either external intervention, such as therapy, or internal change, such as resolution of the underlying emotion. Recurring dreams also highlight the strange balance between stability and change in the brain. On one hand, they show that certain dream themes are remarkably stable, returning for years. On the other hand, they show how dreams are never exact copies, always reshaping the material. The balance ensures that the dream feels both familiar and new each time. If you think of your own recurring dreams, you may notice this balance. The core feeling is always the same, but the details shift. The dream becomes a mirror of your changing life, reflecting new experiences against an old emotional template. This continuity across change may be part of what makes recurring dreams so striking. They remind you that even as life moves on, some parts of the mind remain anchored to the same concerns, the same unfinished business. When most people think of dreams, they imagine something curious, strange, or maybe even amusing. But then there are those nights when the dream is not curious or playful, but terrifying. These are the nightmares, the episodes that make your heart race, that jolt you awake with sweat on your skin, that leave you staring at the ceiling wondering why your mind would frighten you in such a vivid way. Nightmares are not just stronger dreams. They are a unique form of dreaming shaped by the brain's alarm systems, and they reveal much about how emotion and survival are wired into sleep. Nightmares are defined by their emotional content. They are dreams dominated by fear, anxiety, helplessness, or horror. While other dreams can contain fear, what makes a nightmare distinct is the intensity. The emotional charge is so strong that it often wakes you, leaving the fragments of the dream hanging in your mind. Unlike ordinary dreams, which fade quickly, nightmares linger. You can recall the chase, the fall, the dark figure, the loss. You can remember the feeling as if it had truly happened. The biological roots of nightmares lie in the amygdala, one of the brain's central alarm centres. This structure, deep in the limbic system, is responsible for detecting threats and preparing the body to respond. During rapid eye movement sleep, the amygdala is especially active. When it triggers, the dream fills with fear. Your heart rate and breathing quicken, your muscles tense even through paralysis, and the dream becomes a rehearsal for danger. Scientists believe that nightmares may be part of an evolutionary system that kept humans alive. By rehearsing threatening scenarios at night, the brain could prepare for them in waking life. A nightmare of being chased by a predator could have sharpened the survival instincts of our ancestors, even if the dream itself was terrifying. But nightmares are not limited to ancient dangers. They adapt to modern life, incorporating whatever threats the brain perceives. For a child, a nightmare may involve monsters or separation from parents. For an adult, it may involve failure, accidents, or harm to loved ones. For someone who has experienced trauma, nightmares may replay the event with painful accuracy. The alarm system of the brain does not distinguish between ancient predators and modern anxieties. To the amygdala, fear is fear, and it becomes the script of the nightmare. Recurring nightmares are especially common after trauma. Soldiers returning from combat, survivors of accidents, or those who have endured violence often relive the experience in their dreams. This repetition can be debilitating, leaving the person afraid to sleep, trapped in a cycle of fear. These cases show the power of nightmares not only as reflections of fear, but as symptoms of unresolved emotional injury. Therapies for trauma often involve addressing nightmares directly, helping the brain find a new way to process the memory. Children experience nightmares more frequently than adults, which may be tied to brain development. Their emotional circuits are still forming, and their sense of the world is filled with uncertainty. Nightmares in childhood may serve as practice, helping the young brain learn how to handle fear. Most children grow out of frequent nightmares, though some continue to experience them throughout life. The persistence of nightmares into adulthood may be linked to anxiety, stress, or unresolved psychological conflicts. Interestingly, nightmares are not always harmful. Some researchers argue that they serve a useful function, much like ordinary dreams. By exposing you to fear in a safe environment, they allow you to rehearse responses. If you dream repeatedly of being chased, your brain may be strengthening pathways for vigilance and escape. If you dream of failure, your brain may be preparing you to cope with pressure. In this view, nightmares are intense training exercises, unpleasant but adaptive. However, when nightmares become too frequent or too intense, they can disrupt sleep and harm health. Chronic nightmares are linked to insomnia, depression, and anxiety disorders. The person may dread going to bed, leading to sleep deprivation that worsens emotional regulation. This creates a cycle where stress increases nightmares, and nightmares increase stress. Breaking this cycle requires both addressing the emotional roots and finding ways to alter the dream experience. One method used in therapy is imagery rehearsal, where the dreamer consciously rewrites the nightmare during waking hours. By imagining a different outcome, for example, confronting the pursuer instead of running, the brain can be trained to change the dream. Over time, this reduces the frequency of nightmares, showing how plastic and adaptable the dreaming system can be. The universality of nightmares is another striking fact. Across cultures and history, people report similar nightmare themes: falling, being chased, losing control, facing death. These appear in stories from every part of the world. This consistency suggests that nightmares are not random but built into the human condition. They emerge from the same basic fears that unite people everywhere. Even the supernatural figures that haunt nightmares, demons, ghosts, intruders, are variations on the same themes of vulnerability and danger. Sleep paralysis provides an especially vivid example of how nightmares and brain alarms overlap. When the brain wakes from REM while the body remains paralyzed, the dream imagery can spill into waking life. The result is the terrifying experience of being unable to move while sensing a presence in the room. People across cultures have described this experience, often attributing it to spirits or dark figures. Science now understands it as a misalignment of sleep stages, but the emotional intensity remains undeniable. The amygdala is firing, fear is flooding the system, and the nightmare feels real even with eyes open. Nightmares also reflect personal concerns. While universal themes exist, the details are drawn from individual lives. Someone stressed about work may dream of failing a project. Someone worried about relationships may dream of betrayal or abandonment. The brain takes the raw material of daily life and magnifies it into a threatening scenario. This personalization ensures that the nightmare is emotionally relevant. It is not just fear for fear's sake. It is fear tied to what matters most to the dreamer. Another intriguing element is the persistence of nightmare imagery. While ordinary dreams fade quickly, nightmares are remembered more vividly. This may be because the strong emotion imprints them more deeply. The brain prioritizes remembering threats, even imagined ones, in order to prepare for them. The vivid recall of nightmares may be another adaptation, ensuring that the lesson is not forgotten. For all their darkness, nightmares demonstrate the power of the dreaming mind. They show that even in sleep your brain is not idle. It is scanning, rehearsing, warning, preparing. The cost is fear in the moment, but the benefit may be resilience in the long run. Of course, when nightmares overwhelm, they can harm rather than help. The balance between useful fear and harmful repetition is delicate, and it reveals how dreams are tied to emotional health. If you think of your own nightmares, you might notice how often they reflect something you were already worried about. The brain amplifies those concerns, putting them on stage in dramatic form. Even if the details are absurd, the emotion is accurate. That is the essence of nightmares, the blending of absurd imagery with very real fear. They are the brain's alarms, sounding loudly in the night, reminding you of what you fear most. Among the many dreams people describe, a few stand out as especially common, shared across cultures, ages, and even centuries. Dreams of flying, of falling, of showing up unprepared, of being unable to move. These recurring oddities are so widespread that they seem to reveal something fundamental about the way the dreaming brain works. Flying and falling in particular are among the most universal. They're so vivid, so physical, that people often wake with their hearts racing or with a lingering sense of exhilaration. The fact that people who have never experienced these things in waking life can dream of them so convincingly raises a question. Why does the brain produce these specific sensations? Falling dreams are usually described as sudden, often occurring in the early stages of sleep. A person may feel themselves step off a curb, trip, or plunge from a great height. Sometimes the fall is slow and dramatic, sometimes abrupt and jolting. In many cases, the dream is accompanied by a physical jerk of the body, called a hypnic jerk, which can even wake the sleeper. The sensation is startling because it feels so real. You're not simply imagining a fall, you're experiencing the weightless drop, the rushing air, the inevitability of impact. Scientists believe these dreams may be tied to the brain's motor systems misfiring during the transition into sleep. As muscles relax, the brain may misinterpret the sensation as falling, creating a dream scenario to match. The hypnic jerk is then the body's reflexive response, as if trying to catch itself. Beyond the physical explanation, falling dreams may also carry emotional meaning. They often occur during times of stress, uncertainty, or loss of control. The brain may translate the feeling of instability into the imagery of falling. Because dreams exaggerate emotions, the fall becomes dramatic, turning a vague sense of unease into a vivid plunge. In this way, the oddity of falling dreams reflects the brain's tendency to turn emotions into physical experiences. flying dreams are in many ways the opposite. Instead of fear, they are often accompanied by joy, freedom, or wonder. People describe soaring above landscapes, gliding effortlessly, or flapping their arms like wings. The sensation can be so convincing that it lingers after waking. But how can the brain produce such a vivid experience of something it has never truly felt? The answer lies in the way the brain processes movement. The vestibular system, which regulates balance and spatial orientation, is active during dreaming. By stimulating this system, the brain can create the illusion of flight, just as it can create the illusion of falling. In fact, some researchers suggest that both experiences arise from the same underlying circuits. Falling may be the negative side of vestibular activation, while flying is the positive. Culturally, flying dreams have often been interpreted as signs of liberation, spiritual ascent, or wish fulfillment. In psychology, they are sometimes linked to confidence, creativity, or escape from constraints. Regardless of interpretation, their universality suggests they reflect something deeply embedded in the human nervous system. The brain is capable of simulating gravity, momentum, and freedom from both, creating some of the most memorable dream experiences. Other dream oddities share this physical quality. Many people dream of being unable to move, as if paralyzed or stuck in place. This is often connected to the actual paralysis of REM sleep, when the brain shuts down voluntary muscles to prevent you from acting out dreams. Sometimes, fragments of this paralysis enter the dream itself, producing the sensation of struggling to run but moving in slow motion, or trying to shout but producing no sound. These experiences can be frustrating or terrifying, but they are a natural byproduct of the brain's attempt to protect the sleeper. Dreams of teeth falling out are another strange but widespread phenomenon. People wake disturbed by the vivid image of their teeth crumbling, loosening, or breaking. Psychologists have long debated their meaning, connecting them to anxiety, fear of aging, or loss of control. Neurological explanations point to the fact that the jaw and mouth are highly sensitive areas, and minor shifts in muscle tension during sleep may be misinterpreted by the brain as changes in teeth. The dream then builds a narrative around the sensation. Dreams of being naked in public, of being late, of speaking but not being heard. All of these are oddities that reflect the blending of emotional concerns with bodily sensations. The brain turns feelings of vulnerability, inadequacy, or frustration into dramatic scenes. Even though they are absurd, they feel deeply real because they activate the same circuits that handle genuine experiences of exposure, failure, or helplessness. Flying and falling, however, remain among the most striking because they are such complete bodily experiences. To fly is to defy gravity, to feel light and unbound. To fall is to surrender to gravity, to feel helpless and out of control. These opposite sensations map directly onto some of the most basic human emotions, freedom and fear. That may be why they are so common. The brain has found vivid physical metaphors for two of the strongest emotional states. Interestingly, both flying and falling dreams often occur during transitions in life. People report flying dreams during times of growth, achievement, or exploration, and falling dreams during times of instability or stress. This correlation may not be coincidence. The brain may choose these physical experiences as ways of dramatizing the emotions of the moment. Because they are universal sensations, they serve as shared symbols across individuals and cultures. Even in animals, there are hints of similar experiences. Cats twitch their paws as if chasing prey. Dogs whimper or move their legs as if running. These movements suggest that their brains are also simulating physical actions during sleep. While we cannot know if animals dream of flying or falling, the underlying circuits for spatial orientation and movement are similar. It may be that the dream oddities humans report are simply the human versions of a more general biological capacity for simulated movement. Another layer of oddity lies in how real these dreams feel. People sometimes wake convinced they actually moved, that they actually fell in the bed, or that they momentarily lifted off the mattress. This shows how deeply the brain can immerse itself in its own creations. The same systems that tell you are moving when you are awake can be activated internally, producing sensations that are indistinguishable from real movement. That is why the memory of flying or falling lingers. It was not just a thought, it was a full-body simulation. From an evolutionary perspective, the ability to simulate falling may have been protective. By repeatedly experiencing it in dreams, early humans may have been more alert to the dangers of cliffs, heights, or unstable ground. Flying may not have had such direct survival value, but it may reflect the brain's ability to play with possibilities, to simulate what it cannot experience. That playfulness may itself be adaptive, encouraging creativity and exploration. When you think of your own flying or falling dreams, notice the emotion attached. Were you exhilarated, terrified, or both? Did you feel in control or helpless? Those emotions are the key to understanding why the dream appeared. They reveal what your brain was processing, whether it was freedom, fear, or uncertainty. The dream provided a vivid physical stage for the emotion to play out. And beyond flying and falling, countless other dream oddities exist, each strange in its own way. Meeting people you have never seen, speaking languages you do not know, walking through landscapes that defy physics. They all reveal the same thing. The brain is a master of simulation, capable of creating realities that feel real even when they are impossible. One of the most puzzling experiences in dreaming is the sudden appearance of faces that feel vivid and detailed, yet you are certain you have never seen them before. These strangers in dreams can look so real that you wake wondering how your brain invented them. They may speak, react, and interact as if they were living people, with expressions that shift naturally and voices that sound authentic. If you were asked to imagine a stranger's face while awake, you would likely struggle to create something so detailed. But in dreams, these faces emerge fully formed. The question is how the brain creates them. Neuroscience suggests that the answer lies not in invention, but in memory. The human brain is exceptionally good at recognizing and storing faces. From infancy, people are tuned to notice facial features, expressions, and subtle differences. Over a lifetime, you see tens of thousands of faces, most only briefly. Even a momentary glance at a passerby in the street can leave a trace in your memory. You may never consciously recall that face, but the information is stored somewhere in your neural networks. During dreaming, when the brain pulls material from memory to build its stories, these forgotten fragments can resurface. The face that feels unfamiliar may actually belong to someone you encountered years ago, recorded without your awareness and revived in sleep. Research into face perception supports this idea. The fusiform face area, a region of the brain specialized for recognizing faces, is active during both waking recognition and dreaming. This area does not simply recall entire faces, it stores features, eyes, noses, mouths, shapes, and assembles them. When you dream, the brain may recombine these stored features into new arrangements. The stranger in your dream may be a composite, built from the eyes of one person, the smile of another, the jawline of a third. The result looks unfamiliar because you have never seen that exact combination, but every element comes from real experience. This helps explain why faces in dreams often feel both strange and familiar at the same time. You may wake thinking, "I know I've never seen that person before," while also feeling a sense of recognition. The brain is blending known features into new identities. It is the same process used in waking imagination, but during dreams it feels more real because the emotional and sensory systems are fully engaged. The stranger is not just an image, they are part of a scene, interacting, speaking, reacting, and that makes them feel alive. Cultural stories sometimes treat these strangers as mysterious. Some traditions view them as spirits, ancestors, or symbols. From a scientific perspective, however, they are products of memory and perception. The fact that people across cultures report the same phenomenon shows that it is a universal feature of how the brain processes faces. The stranger is not external. They are built from within. Interestingly, faces in dreams often carry emotional weight. You may feel trust, fear, attraction, or unease toward them instantly, without knowing why. This is because the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, is active during dreaming. When a stranger appears, the brain attaches an emotional label to them, just as it does in waking life. The feeling may come from associations with the features being used. If a stranger's eyes resemble someone you once distrusted, the dream may attach suspicion. If their smile resembles someone you loved, the dream may attach warmth. You're not aware of the source, but the emotion is real. This process also helps explain why dreams can sometimes reveal faces that later feel recognizable. People have reported dreaming of a stranger only to encounter someone in waking life who looks exactly like them. It may feel prophetic, but the more likely explanation is that the dream was drawing on a memory fragment you had not consciously acknowledged. When you later encounter the real person, the resemblance triggers recognition. It is not prediction, but memory reactivation. There are also cases where dreamers report faces that seem impossible, distorted, or exaggerated. These may result from the same recombination process, but with features arranged in ways that do not normally occur together. Because the prefrontal cortex is less active during dreaming, the brain does not filter out these unrealistic combinations. The result is a stranger who looks uncanny, both human and not. These distorted faces can be unsettling, especially when combined with strong emotions. They highlight how the brain's creativity in sleep can produce images it would never create while awake. Psychologists studying dream content find that strangers appear frequently, often playing minor roles in the narrative. They may be background characters like people in a crowd, or they may play more central roles, like guiding the dreamer or confronting them. This reflects how the brain populates its simulated world. Just as your waking environment includes strangers, your dream environment includes them too. The brain uses its library of stored faces to fill the stage. Without them, the dream world would feel empty. Another fascinating aspect is how faces in dreams often carry symbolic meaning. Even if they are composites or strangers, dreamers sometimes interpret them as representing qualities, feelings, or situations. For example, a dream stranger may feel like an authority figure, a friend, or a threat. Regardless of their actual appearance, the brain attaches meaning through emotion and context, not through identity alone. This is similar to how waking perception works. You often form impressions of strangers instantly based on subtle cues. Dreams exaggerate this process, attaching strong emotional labels to faces that may have no real-world identity. In some cases, faces in dreams may even help process social learning. Interacting with strangers in dreams may allow the brain to rehearse social scenarios, test responses, or practice interpreting expressions. Just as physical rehearsal can occur in dreams, social rehearsal may occur too. The presence of strangers ensures that the dream environment includes unpredictability, mirroring the uncertainty of real social life. There is also the question of why faces can feel so detailed when other dream elements are vague. You may not recall the exact layout of the room or the specifics of the landscape, but you remember the stranger's eyes, their expression, their hair. This may reflect the brain's prioritization of faces in perception. Faces are among the most important stimuli humans encounter. They convey identity, emotion, and intent. The brain is wired to pay close attention to them, and this wiring continues in dreams. Even when other details fade, faces stand out. Neurological studies of people with face blindness, or prosopagnosia, add another dimension. These individuals struggle to recognize faces while awake, yet some report dreaming of faces as vividly as anyone else. This suggests that the brain's ability to generate faces in dreams may operate independently of conscious recognition. The underlying networks for face construction are intact, even if waking access is impaired. Dreams, in this sense, reveal abilities that may be hidden during the day. The persistence of strangers in dreams also raises questions about memory storage. If you can dream of someone you saw only once, it means your brain keeps far more information than you realize. Daily life involves constant exposure to faces, most of which you never consciously think about again, yet they remain encoded, available to be reassembled in sleep. This hidden archive underscores the vast capacity of the brain and the depth of unconscious memory. When you recall your own dreams, you may notice how often strangers appear, even if you forget them quickly. You might wake remembering their presence, their role, or the feeling they gave you, even if their features fade. This reflects the way the brain handles dream content. Faces are given emotional and narrative weight, but they are not always transferred into long-term recall. Still, their presence in the dream shows how essential they are to the construction of a believable world. So when you encounter a stranger in a dream, it is not that your brain invented someone out of nothing. It is that your brain is pulling from its endless library of faces, features, and fragments, mixing and matching until a new identity appears. The person feels real because every part of them is drawn from reality, even if the whole has never existed before. And once these strangers take their place in the dream, they join the cast of symbols, images, and events that fill the night. From there, the story often shifts toward deeper layers of meaning, where the faces and scenes are not just borrowed from memory, but transformed into symbols, shaping what comes next in the strange theatre of dreams. When people try to describe their dreams, they often turn to the language of symbols. A snake slithering across a hallway, a locked door that will not open, a wave crashing over your head, a key that appears in your hand. These details feel significant, as though the dream is speaking in code. The idea that dreams are symbolic is ancient, found in the earliest records of human history. People in Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and countless other cultures believed dreams carried hidden meanings. Temples were built for dream interpretation, and rulers sometimes made decisions based on dream omens. Even today, many people wonder what their dreams mean, as if each image were part of a secret language. From the perspective of neuroscience, dreams are not sending coded messages from outside the self. They are products of the brain, shaped by memory, emotion, and imagination. But the brain does work in ways that give rise to symbols. It tends to process information through associations. An object is not just an object. It is linked to experiences, emotions, and concepts. When those networks are activated in dreams, the object can stand in for something larger. A snake may not represent a literal reptile. It may trigger associations with danger, fear, or transformation. The dream places it on the stage because it captures the emotional quality the brain is processing. Symbols in dreams often emerge because the logical oversight of waking thought is diminished. While awake, you might describe your anxiety directly as "I am worried about failing." In a dream, that anxiety may appear as being late for an exam or standing on stage unprepared. The symbolic form allows the emotion to play out as an experience rather than an abstract thought. This makes the feeling more vivid and memorable. The brain is rehearsing the emotion through imagery. Recurring dream symbols often reflect universal concerns. Falling, flying, losing teeth, being chased. These appear in cultures worldwide. They may serve as shared symbols of vulnerability, freedom, loss, or danger. Because the human brain has similar wiring everywhere, the same imagery emerges again and again. But dreams also contain personal symbols, drawn from an individual's own history. A locked door may represent opportunity to one person, fear to another, or secrecy to someone else, depending on life experience. The meaning of symbols is not fixed. It depends on the associations carried within each dreamer's mind. One reason symbols are powerful in dreams is their ability to condense meaning. A single image can hold layers of experience. A house may represent not just a building but a sense of self, safety, family, or memory. A car may symbolize independence, direction, or loss of control. Dreams compress these associations into a single scene, creating a shorthand that the emotional brain understands even if the logical brain does not. Another factor is the way dreams combine symbols. You may find yourself in a house with endless hallways, each door leading to another. The house may combine memories of places you have lived with the symbolic idea of exploring the self. The dream does not explain this in words. It simply presents the image, leaving you with the feeling of navigating your own inner world. Symbols can blend and transform fluidly, reflecting the way neural networks overlap in the brain. Psychologists such as Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung famously emphasize symbols in dreams. Freud saw them as disguises for repressed desires, often of a sexual nature. Jung saw them as expressions of archetypes, universal patterns shared across humanity. While modern neuroscience does not endorse these theories in their entirety, it does recognize that symbols play a role in how the brain communicates with itself. They may not carry hidden mystical messages, but they do reflect the way memory, culture, and emotion interact during sleep. Cultural context strongly shapes dream symbols. A snake in one culture may symbolize wisdom, while in another it represents danger. A river may mean life and fertility in one tradition, death and passage in another. The same imagery can carry different meanings because the associations are learned. The brain builds its library of symbols from cultural experience, then uses those symbols in dreams. This is why dream interpretation guides often vary so widely. There is no universal dictionary, because the meaning of each image depends on the dreamer's background. Yet despite the variability, certain symbols seem nearly universal. Water, for example, often appears in dreams. It may take the form of oceans, rivers, rain, or floods. Across cultures, water is tied to life, change, and emotion. This may reflect both biological and psychological realities. Water is essential for survival, and its physical properties, flow, depth, unpredictability, make it an apt metaphor for feelings. The brain may turn to water imagery when processing emotions too complex for direct thought. Another universal symbol is the journey. Dreams frequently involve travelling, moving through landscapes, or searching for destinations. This may represent the way the brain organises life as a path, a progression through stages. The journey can be smooth or difficult, familiar or strange, reflecting the dreamer's sense of direction. Again, the meaning depends on context, but the form is consistent. Nightmares are also filled with symbols. Being chased, trapped, or attacked can stand in for broader fears of failure, vulnerability, or conflict. The symbolic form intensifies the emotion. Instead of thinking about worry, you are running from a pursuer. Instead of pondering conflict, you are locked in battle. This dramatization ensures the fear is processed as a vivid experience, one that the brain will not ignore. Symbols also serve a memory function. Because dreams are involved in consolidating memory, the symbolic imagery may help link different experiences together. By representing multiple associations in one image, the brain can integrate information more efficiently. A dream of a house on fire, for example, may link memories of home, fear, and change into a single scenario. This compression allows the brain to process complex emotions more quickly. From a creative perspective, dream symbols have inspired countless works of art, literature, and music. Artists often describe taking imagery from dreams and shaping it into their work. The Surrealists, for example, valued dream symbols as expressions of the unconscious. Even in science, dream symbols have sparked insight, such as the chemist Kekule's dream of a snake biting its tail, which led to the discovery of the benzene ring structure. These examples show that while symbols in dreams may not be mystical, they are powerful sources of creativity. Another interesting dimension is how dream symbols often shift fluidly. An object may transform into something else mid-dream, yet still carry the same emotional weight. A key may turn into a map, a person into an animal, a room into an open field. The transformations reflect the brain's associative logic. Networks of meaning overlap, so one symbol can morph into another without breaking the dream's coherence. This fluidity is part of what makes dreams so strange yet compelling. The persistence of certain symbols across time suggests they are deeply embedded in the way the human brain processes experience. Even though culture influences interpretation, the recurrence of images like flying, falling, water, or doors points to common cognitive patterns. The brain seems to prefer certain forms when turning emotion into imagery. These forms may be efficient, memorable, and emotionally effective, which is why they appear so often. When you think of your own dreams, notice the symbols that appear repeatedly. They may not carry fixed meanings, but they reflect the associations most active in your mind. A locked door may appear whenever you feel blocked. A bridge may appear when you face transition. A wave may appear when you feel overwhelmed. The symbol is the brain's shorthand, compressing complex feelings into one vivid scene. What makes dream symbols so powerful is not just their presence, but the way they feel. You do not just see the snake or the locked door. You feel the fear, the frustration, the anticipation. The emotion and the image are inseparable. This fusion is what gives dream symbols their impact. They are not abstract codes to be deciphered. They are lived experiences, created by the brain to process and rehearse emotions. And as these symbols fill the dream world, they shape not only how you feel during the night, but also how you remember and interpret the dream in the morning. They link past experiences to present emotions, weaving together fragments of life into meaningful patterns. If you think back to the dreams that have left the strongest impression on you, you may notice a pattern. Many of them are coloured by stress or anxiety. They may involve being late, being unprepared, being trapped, or being chased. They may feature arguments, failures, or losses. Even when the dream looks absurd on the surface, the underlying feeling is unmistakable. Stress and anxiety are powerful forces in waking life, and they follow you into sleep. In fact, they shape your dream world so thoroughly that they can become the central themes of what you experience each night. The brain does not stop processing stress when you close your eyes. During the day, stress triggers the release of hormones such as cortisol, preparing your body to respond to challenges. At night, cortisol levels usually drop, giving the body a chance to recover. But the memories, thoughts, and emotions tied to stress remain active in the brain. As you drift into sleep, the circuits that handle those experiences during the day are reactivated. The hippocampus replays recent events, and the amygdala intensifies emotions. This combination ensures that stress makes its way into your dreams. One of the most common stress-related dreams is the classic scenario of being unprepared. You may dream of showing up to an exam without studying, of missing a meeting, or of standing on stage unable to speak. These dreams do not necessarily reflect literal fears. Instead, they dramatize the feeling of being overwhelmed or inadequate. The brain takes the raw emotion of stress and turns it into a symbolic narrative. Because dreams are immersive, you do not just think about being unprepared. You live it, feeling the panic and the helplessness as if it were happening in reality. Another frequent stress-related dream is being chased. The pursuer may change, but the feeling is always the same: fear, urgency, and the need to escape. This reflects the brain's ancient threat detection systems. When you are stressed, your body activates the fight or flight response, even if there is no physical danger. In dreams, that response may appear as a literal chase. The brain converts abstract stress into a survival scenario. It feels terrifying, but it is essentially the brain's way of rehearsing danger in symbolic form. Stress can also distort the dream environment. People under pressure often report dreams where ordinary tasks become impossible. A simple door refuses to open, a car will not start, or a staircase stretches endlessly. These obstacles are metaphors for the feeling of being blocked in waking life. The brain does not show you stress as a concept. It shows you stress as a lived experience embedded in the dream world itself. The timing of stress in relation to dreams is also fascinating. Psychologists talk about the day residue effect, where events from the previous day appear in dreams. If you had an argument, worried about work, or felt anxious about something, fragments of those experiences often show up that same night. But there is also the dream lag effect, where experiences resurface about a week later. Stressful events may reappear in dreams long after they happened, suggesting that the brain continues to process them over time. This delayed reappearance shows how persistent stress can be, lingering in memory networks until the brain has fully integrated it. Chronic stress makes its mark in another way. People who live with long-term anxiety or pressure often report more frequent nightmares. The repeated activation of the amygdala ensures that fear dominates the dream landscape. These dreams may not replay specific stressful events, but instead generate scenarios filled with threat and helplessness. Over time, this can become a cycle. Stress creates nightmares. Nightmares disrupt sleep. Poor sleep increases stress, and the loop continues. Interestingly, stress-related dreams do not always harm. Some researchers argue that they serve an adaptive purpose. By exposing you to stressful scenarios in a safe environment, your brain may be rehearsing coping strategies. If you repeatedly dream of being unprepared, the rehearsal may encourage you to prepare more carefully in waking life. If you dream of being chased, the rehearsal may prime your vigilance. In this view, stress in dreams is not random torment, it is training. The discomfort ensures that the lesson is taken seriously. Another striking feature is how stress influences dream recall. People under pressure often remember more dreams, especially negative ones. This may be because strong emotions imprint memories more deeply. The brain is designed to prioritize threats, even imagined ones. Remembering the stressful dream may be a way of keeping the rehearsal fresh. Unfortunately, this also means that people under stress are more likely to wake with unpleasant memories. Stress can also change the tone of otherwise ordinary dreams. A neutral scenario may take on an anxious edge. You may dream of walking through a familiar place, but the lighting is darker, the people unfriendly, the atmosphere uneasy. This reflects how the emotional state of the brain colours perception. Even without a specific nightmare, stress can tint the dream world with unease. There is evidence that stress-related dreams differ depending on personality. People who are naturally more anxious or prone to worry report more negative dreams. Those who cope with stress through problem-solving or resilience may experience fewer nightmares. This suggests that the brain's handling of stress in dreams is shaped by individual differences, just as it is during waking life. Children also experience stress-related dreams, often in the form of nightmares. School, family conflict, or fears of separation can appear in exaggerated form. Because children's emotional regulation is still developing, stress can spill into dreams more easily. These nightmares may serve as practice, helping the child's brain learn how to handle difficult feelings. Cultural interpretation plays a role as well. In some traditions, stress-related dreams are seen as warnings or omens. In others, they are dismissed as meaningless byproducts. Regardless of interpretation, the mechanism is the same. Stress shapes dream content because the brain's emotional and memory systems remain active in sleep. The imagery may differ by culture, but the emotional imprint is universal. The physical sensations of stress sometimes enter dreams directly. A racing heart, shallow breathing, or muscle tension can be incorporated into the dream narrative. For example, if stress raises your heart rate during sleep, the dream may create a scenario that explains it, such as running or hiding. The brain prefers coherence, so it matches internal sensations with external stories. This blending of body and mind makes stress dreams especially convincing. Even grief and loss, which are forms of deep stress, shape dreams profoundly. People who are mourning often report vivid dreams of the person they lost. These dreams can be comforting or painful, depending on the emotional state. They reflect the brain's attempt to process overwhelming stress through imagery. Because emotions are strongest in these situations, the dreams are often among the most memorable of a person's life. Therapies for stress sometimes address dreams directly. Techniques such as imagery, rehearsal, mindfulness, or lucid dreaming practice can help reduce nightmares. By changing the dream script, the brain can be trained to respond differently. This shows how flexible the dreaming system is, even under stress. It also highlights the connection between waking practices and sleeping experiences. When you consider your own dreams, you may notice how closely they mirror your stress levels. During calm periods, your dreams may feel lighter, more playful. During stressful times, they may become darker, more intense. This mirroring shows that dreams are not separate from waking life. They are continuous with it, shaped by the same emotions that guide your days. There are moments in dreams when something unusual happens. You might be walking through a familiar place, and suddenly you notice that the details do not make sense. The hallway stretches on forever, or the clock on the wall shows symbols instead of numbers, or a person you are speaking with changes appearance right before your eyes. Instead of simply accepting this as part of the dream, you pause. You realize, in that instant, that you're not awake at all. You're dreaming. That sudden awareness, the recognition of the dream state while still inside it, is what defines a lucid dream. For most people, dreams are immersive but unquestioned. You accept whatever your mind creates, no matter how strange. But in a lucid dream, the awareness changes everything. Some dreamers remain passive, simply observing with curiosity. Others find themselves able to influence the dream, to change the environment, to fly, to walk through walls, to summon people or objects. The degree of control varies, but the defining feature is awareness. You know you are in a dream, and that knowledge shifts the experience dramatically. Lucid dreams have fascinated both ordinary dreamers and scientists for centuries. Ancient texts from many cultures describe them, often framing them as spiritual or mystical experiences. In more recent times, researchers have studied them scientifically, using techniques such as eye movement signals to confirm when a dreamer becomes lucid. These studies show that lucid dreaming is a genuine phenomenon, not just a story. It occurs when parts of the brain associated with self-awareness and critical thinking become more active during REM sleep. Normally, the prefrontal cortex, the region involved in logic and reflection, is quiet in REM. This is why most dreams feel real even when they are absurd. In a lucid dream, however, this region lights up again, creating a hybrid state. The dreamer remains in REM, experiencing vivid imagery and strong emotions, but also regains a measure of waking awareness. This combination explains why lucid dreams feel so unique. You are both immersed in the dream and conscious of its unreality. For some people, lucid dreams happen spontaneously. They may occur once in a lifetime, or they may appear regularly. Others learn techniques to induce them. Common methods include reality checks, where you train yourself during the day to question whether you're dreaming, and mnemonic induction, where you repeat the intention to recognize a dream as you fall asleep. These practices increase the chance that you will notice the strangeness of the dream and become aware. The experience itself can be exhilarating. Many lucid dreamers describe the first moments of awareness as a rush of excitement. Realizing you are in a dream can bring a sense of freedom, because the normal rules of reality no longer apply. You may experiment, testing whether you can fly, summon objects, or alter the scene. Some dreamers use the opportunity for exploration, wandering through dream landscapes with curiosity. Others use it for problem-solving, creativity, or even emotional healing. Scientific studies suggest that lucid dreams activate unique brain patterns. Functional imaging shows increased activity in regions related to self-reflection, as well as communication between different brain networks. This suggests that lucid dreaming is a distinct state of consciousness, somewhere between ordinary dreaming and wakefulness. It is not simply a fantasy, but a measurable shift in brain function. One intriguing aspect of lucid dreaming is its potential for training and rehearsal. Because the dream world feels real, practicing a skill in a lucid dream can sometimes improve performance in waking life. Athletes, musicians, and artists have experimented with using lucid dreams for practice. The brain circuits activated in the dream overlap with those used in real performance, so the rehearsal has some benefit. Although it cannot fully replace physical practice, it can supplement it in interesting ways. Lucid dreams also provide opportunities for emotional processing. People who suffer from nightmares sometimes use lucidity to change the outcome. By realizing they are dreaming, they can confront the pursuer, escape the danger, or transform the dream into something more positive. This technique has been explored as a therapy for recurring nightmares, especially in trauma survivors. The ability to intervene in the dream breaks the cycle of helplessness, replacing it with agency. Not all lucid dreams are easy to control, however. Some dreamers report that the awareness fades quickly, or that attempts to change the dream fail. Others find that excitement wakes them up before they can explore. Lucidity exists on a spectrum from faint recognition to full mastery. The variability reflects the complexity of the brain state. Awareness may rise, but the dream environment is still being generated by unconscious processes that do not always yield to conscious will. Despite these limits, lucid dreams remain one of the most fascinating windows into consciousness. They demonstrate that awareness is not all or nothing. It can exist in degrees even within sleep. They also challenge the boundary between imagination and perception. When you are lucid, you know the world around you is imagined, yet it feels real in every sensory detail. This paradox makes lucid dreaming a valuable subject for scientists studying the nature of consciousness itself. There are also cultural dimensions to lucid dreaming. Some traditions treat it as a spiritual practice, a way to explore inner worlds or connect with deeper truths. Tibetan Buddhism, for example, includes dream yoga, a discipline that trains practitioners to remain aware in dreams as part of a path to enlightenment. In Western contexts, lucid dreaming is often framed more scientifically or recreationally, as a skill that can be learned. Despite the differences in interpretation, the underlying experience is the same: awareness within the dream. People often wonder why some individuals experience lucid dreams more often than others. Research suggests that factors such as personality, sleep patterns, and attention to dreams play a role. People who naturally reflect more on their thoughts and experiences are more likely to notice the strangeness of dreams. Keeping a dream journal, focusing on recall, and developing awareness during the day can all increase the likelihood of lucidity. Lucid dreams also highlight the flexibility of the brain's perception of reality. In waking life, you rely on consistency. Gravity always pulls downward, objects remain solid, time flows steadily. In dreams, these rules can be suspended. When you become lucid, you recognize the suspension and can sometimes manipulate it. This recognition demonstrates that reality, even while awake, is a construction of the brain. Lucid dreams reveal the machinery behind that construction more directly than almost any other state. From a therapeutic perspective, lucid dreams offer unique opportunities. People with phobias, for example, may use lucid dreams to confront their fears in a safe environment. Someone afraid of heights can practice standing on tall buildings. Someone anxious about social situations can rehearse conversations. The emotional intensity ensures that the practice feels real, while the awareness ensures safety. Research into these applications is still developing, but the potential is promising. One of the most striking things about lucid dreams is the sense of possibility they create. Many dreamers describe them as some of the most memorable experiences of their lives. Even a single lucid dream can leave a lasting impression, not only because of the unusual control but because of the insight it provides into the workings of the mind. To realize, within the dream, that your brain is creating the entire world around you is a profound moment. It is a reminder of how powerful and creative the human mind really is. Yet, like all dreams, lucid ones are fragile. The awareness can slip away, the control can fail, or the memory can fade upon waking. They are glimpses into a unique state, not something easily sustained. This fragility adds to their mystery, making them rare treasures in the landscape of sleep. As you reflect on the idea of lucid dreams, you may wonder whether you have had one yourself. Perhaps you remember a dream where you realized just for a moment that you were dreaming. Perhaps you even tried to change something and it worked. Or perhaps you woke up too soon, left with only the memory of possibility. Whether frequent or rare, lucid dreams remind us that the mind is capable of awareness even in its most immersive fictions. When people think of dreams, they usually imagine them as private experiences contained entirely within the mind. You see, feel, and imagine things while your body lies still, safely disconnected from the world. But there are times when this boundary breaks. Instead of remaining immobile, the body begins to move. Someone might sit up in bed, walk across the room, talk to people who are not there, or even perform complex actions. This is the phenomenon of sleepwalking, one of the most striking examples of how dreaming and bodily action can overlap. Sleepwalking is part of a group of behaviors known as parasomnias, unusual activities that occur during sleep. Unlike ordinary dreaming, which is most vivid in rapid eye movement sleep, sleepwalking usually happens in the deeper stages of non-REM sleep. In these stages, the brain is not creating elaborate dream imagery, but parts of it remain active enough to trigger movement. The person is caught in a state between sleep and wakefulness. They may open their eyes, move with purpose, and even respond to their environment, yet their consciousness is far from fully awake. What makes sleepwalking so fascinating is the complexity of the behaviours involved. A child may simply sit up in bed, mumble a few words and lie back down. An adult may walk through the house, open doors, eat food, or even attempt to leave. In rare cases, sleepwalkers have been reported to drive cars or engage in conversations that make partial sense. Despite these actions, they often have little or no memory of the episode when they wake. The body has moved, but the mind has not been fully present. The causes of sleepwalking are varied. Genetics play a role. Families with a history of sleepwalking often see it passed down. Children are more prone to it, likely because their sleep cycles are still developing. Stress, fatigue, and illness can increase the likelihood, as can certain medications that affect brain chemistry. Alcohol and sleep deprivation are also common triggers. In each case, the underlying factor is disruption to the smooth progression of sleep stages. Instead of transitioning fully into or out of deep sleep, the brain gets caught, activating motor circuits while higher consciousness remains offline. Neurologically, sleepwalking reflects a kind of dissociation. The brainstem, which controls movement, becomes active, while the cortex, which manages awareness and judgment, remains partly shut down. This mismatch allows complex motor activity without conscious direction. The sleepwalker may navigate their environment with surprising coordination, avoiding obstacles and responding to changes. Yet if you ask them in the morning, they will often have no recollection. The memory systems that normally record experience were not engaged. For most people, sleepwalking is harmless, if sometimes unsettling. A child might wander into another room or stand quietly in the hallway, but in some cases it can be dangerous. Sleepwalkers may injure themselves by tripping, colliding with objects, or leaving the house. Because they lack full awareness, they may take risks they would avoid while awake. Families often take precautions, such as locking doors or securing windows, to protect those prone to sleepwalking. There is another condition, however, that blurs the boundary between dreams and action even more directly. This is REM sleep behavior disorder. Unlike ordinary sleepwalking, which occurs in deep non-REM sleep, this disorder happens during REM, when the most vivid dreams take place. Normally the body is paralyzed during REM, a safeguard that prevents you from acting out dreams. But in REM sleep behavior disorder, that paralysis fails. The dream spills into the body. The person may thrash, kick, punch, or leap from bed, enacting whatever is happening in their dream. The behaviors in REM sleep behavior disorder can be violent because the dreams themselves are often intense. A person dreaming of being attacked may lash out physically. A person dreaming of running may actually move their legs. Unlike non-REM sleepwalking, which tends to involve relatively calm or aimless activity, REM sleep behavior disorder is dramatic and potentially dangerous. Bed partners are often the first to notice, as they may be struck by the dreamer's movements. The condition is more common in older adults, especially men, and has been linked to neurological disorders such as Parkinson's disease. In fact, it is sometimes considered an early warning sign, appearing years before other symptoms. The connection suggests that the same brain regions that regulate movement and muscle control during wakefulness also govern the paralysis of REM. When those systems begin to deteriorate, the paralysis weakens and dreams burst into physical action. Both sleepwalking and REM sleep behavior disorder raise profound questions about consciousness. How much of a person is awake during these episodes? How much control do they have? The law has even grappled with these questions, as rare cases of crime committed during sleepwalking have reached courtrooms. Defendants have argued that they were not conscious and therefore not responsible. While such cases are unusual, they highlight how thin the boundary between dream and action can be. The study of these conditions has taught scientists much about how sleep is organized. In healthy sleep, each stage has clear boundaries. Non-REM gives way to REM, REM gives way to waking, and the body's systems shift accordingly. But when those boundaries weaken, hybrid states emerge. Sleepwalking is one such state, with the body active while the mind remains in deep sleep. REM sleep behavior disorder is another, with vivid dreams active while the body fails to stay still. These hybrids reveal how sleep is not an on-off switch, but a complex interplay of circuits that can sometimes overlap in unexpected ways. Stress and environment can also influence these behaviors. People under pressure may experience more frequent episodes, as the brain struggles to maintain stable sleep. Sleep deprivation increases the likelihood, as does irregular sleep timing. Creating consistent routines and reducing stress can often reduce sleepwalking, showing how tightly linked the mind and body are even during rest. Children who sleepwalk often outgrow it, as their brains mature and their sleep cycles stabilize. For adults, the persistence of sleepwalking may point to underlying sleep disorders or neurological conditions. Medical evaluation can help determine whether there are broader issues at play. Treatments may involve medication, lifestyle adjustments, or simply managing the environment to minimize risks. Despite the risks, many people find the phenomenon fascinating. Families sometimes recount stories of children wandering the house in the middle of the night, eyes open but minds elsewhere. Some laugh at the strange things sleepwalkers say or do. Others marvel at how coordinated the movements can be, even without awareness. These stories remind us how much of human behavior is driven by unconscious processes. Even in waking life, many actions are automatic. Sleepwalking makes this visible, stripping away the illusion of constant conscious control. For those with REM sleep behavior disorder, the stories are often more dramatic. People describe diving out of bed to escape dream attackers, punching walls or running into furniture. The vividness of the dreams makes the actions forceful, as if the brain cannot distinguish between simulation and reality. These episodes can be frightening, but they also provide a window into how deeply dreams engage the motor system. Studying these conditions has also deepened our understanding of safety mechanisms in sleep. The paralysis of REM is not just a quirk, it is a vital safeguard. Without it, the dream world would constantly spill into physical action, with dangerous consequences. The fact that the system exists at all shows how important it is to keep dreams contained. Its failure in REM sleep behavior disorder is a reminder of how finely balanced the brain systems are. Sleepwalking and dream enactment also highlight the mystery of memory. People rarely recall their episodes clearly. At most, they may have fragments of the dream that triggered the action. This suggests that the memory networks needed for long-term storage are not fully engaged. The actions are real, but the experiences vanish into amnesia. It is as if part of the self was active while another part was entirely absent. When you consider these phenomena, they underscore how sleep is not simply passive. It is active, dynamic, and sometimes unpredictable. The brain shifts through states, and when the transitions falter, unusual behaviors emerge. Most of the time, you remain still while you dream, protected by the brain safeguards. But on some nights, those safeguards weaken, and the line between imagination and action blurs. When you step back from your own dreams and look across history, one of the striking things is how people everywhere have tried to make sense of what happens at night. Dreams are universal. Every culture has experienced them, and every culture has interpreted them in its own way. They have been seen as messages from the gods, as glimpses of the future, as reflections of the soul, as illusions of the mind. The meanings shift, but the fascination remains constant. Dreams have always been part of the human story, woven into rituals, literature, medicine, and religion. In the ancient world, dreams often carried enormous weight. In Mesopotamia, clay tablets record dreams and their interpretations. People believed dreams were communications from deities, and entire manuals were created to decode them. A king might base a political decision on a dream, or a soldier might take a dream as a sign of victory or defeat. The dream world was seen as a channel between the human and the divine. Egypt held similar beliefs. The Egyptians built temples where people could sleep in hopes of receiving healing dreams. Priests acted as interpreters, turning the dream imagery into guidance. To them, dreams were not random. They were purposeful messages, and understanding them could shape life and destiny. In Greece, dreams were also tied to healing. The cult of Asclepius, the god of medicine, included rituals of dream incubation. People travelled to temples, slept within them, and awaited dreams that would reveal cures. The belief that the sleeping mind could connect to deeper knowledge influenced both medicine and philosophy. Greek thinkers such as Aristotle and Plato also wrote about dreams. Aristotle saw them as natural phenomena, products of bodily processes and impressions left over from the day. This marked a shift toward rational explanations, but the sense of mystery remained. Rome inherited many of these traditions. Roman leaders often recorded dreams and consulted interpreters. The historian Suetonius described how emperors viewed dreams as omens, shaping political decisions. Even ordinary people sought meaning in them, linking personal dreams to public events. The idea that dreams were tied to fate ran deep. Yet at the same time, Roman thinkers debated their validity, with some dismissing them as illusions. This tension between belief and skepticism has echoed through history. In Asian traditions, dreams also held complex meanings. In China, dream interpretation was part of philosophy and medicine. Some schools of thought saw dreams as reflections of qi, the life energy, and as indicators of health. Others treated them as journeys of the soul, travelling through different realms while the body rested. Chinese texts preserved elaborate systems of interpretation, linking dream imagery to fortune, illness, or morality. In India, Hindu and Buddhist traditions treated dreams as glimpses of Maya, the illusion of reality. Dreams were seen as both meaningful and deceptive, reminders of the mind's power to create appearances. Buddhist thought in particular emphasized the similarity between dreams and waking life, suggesting that both are impermanent and constructed. Indigenous cultures around the world also place strong emphasis on dreams. In many Native American traditions, dreams were considered sacred, carrying messages from spirits or ancestors. Some communities use dreams in decision-making, hunting practices, or healing rituals. the Ojibwe and other groups developed the concept of the dream catcher, intended to filter dreams so that only good ones reach the sleeper. In Australia, Aboriginal traditions included the dream time, a foundational concept that blends creation stories with ongoing spiritual reality. Here, dreams were not just personal experiences but connections to ancestral truth and the structure of the world itself. Medieval Europe blended ancient traditions with Christian theology. Dreams were often viewed with suspicion as potential temptations or deceptions from evil forces. At the same time, they could also be seen as divine visions. Saints and mystics reported dreams in which they received guidance or revelations. Monks and theologians debated whether dreams should be trusted. This ambivalence reflected broader tensions in the culture, torn between spiritual interpretation and skepticism. The Renaissance revived interest in dreams as sources of creativity and knowledge. Artists, writers, and scientists drew inspiration from them. The surreal qualities of dreams influenced painting, poetry, and theatre. At the same time, scholars began to study them more systematically, linking them to imagination and memory. By the Enlightenment, some thinkers treated dreams as purely mechanical, the result of the nervous system, while others still saw them as profound. The divide between scientific and symbolic interpretations widened. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, psychology brought a new lens. Sigmund Freud made dreams central to his theory of the mind. To him, they were the royal road to the unconscious, revealing repressed desires in symbolic form. His student Carl Jung expanded this idea, proposing that dreams connected to universal archetypes shared across humanity. These theories reinvigorated the belief that dreams held deep meaning, even if the focus shifted from gods to the psyche. While modern neuroscience has moved away from Freud's specifics, his emphasis on dreams as meaningful influenced culture for generations. Outside of psychology, modern science has explored dreams through sleep research. With the discovery of REM sleep in the 1950s, scientists could measure when dreams were most likely occurring. This shifted the focus from interpretation to mechanism. Dreams came to be seen as byproducts of brain activity, tied to memory consolidation, emotion regulation, and neural processing. Yet even as science explained the how, the question of why people dream and what it means remained alive in culture. People continued to record, share, and analyze their dreams, searching for significance. Across cultures and times, certain themes recur: flying, falling, being chased, appearing unprepared. These dreams appear in Mesopotamian tablets, in Greek literature, in Chinese texts, and in modern reports. This universality suggests that dreams reflect not only culture, but also the shared structure of the human brain. The imagery may be symbolic, but the emotions they represent, fear, freedom, vulnerability, are constants of human life. Each culture interprets them differently, but the raw experiences are the same. Dreams have also shaped collective life. Prophetic dreams influenced battles, migrations, and politics. Poets and artists found inspiration in dream imagery. Philosophers used dreams to question the nature of reality. Spiritual leaders treated dreams as doorways to other realms. Even today, in a world dominated by science and technology, people continue to value dreams. They write them down, discuss them, search for meaning. The cultural weight of dreams has not diminished. It has simply changed form. What is most striking is how dreams serve as mirrors. Each culture sees in them what matters most. For ancient Mesopotamians, it was communication with the gods. For Egyptians, it was healing. For Greeks, it was philosophy and medicine. For Buddhists, it was the impermanence of reality. For indigenous peoples, it was connection with ancestors and the land. For modern science, it is neural activity and memory. The dream is the same phenomenon, but the interpretation shifts with values and beliefs. When you think about your own dreams, you're participating in a tradition that stretches back thousands of years. Every time you wonder what a dream means, you echo the questions of ancient people. Every time you notice a recurring theme, you connect with dreamers across continents and centuries. The dream world belongs to everyone, shaped by culture but rooted in the same human experience. Dreams are often remembered for their strangeness, their illogical plots, their unexpected characters, and their surreal landscapes. Yet within that strangeness lies something profoundly important: the ability of the brain to combine ideas, images, and emotions in ways that would not occur during waking life. This is where the connection between dreams and creativity becomes most visible. People throughout history have credited dreams with sparking inventions, inspiring works of art, and providing breakthroughs in science. The curious link between creativity and dreaming is not accidental. It reflects the way the brain reorganizes information during sleep, freeing itself from the rigid rules of waking thought. Creativity depends on making connections. To create something new, the mind has to link ideas that were previously separate. During the day, much of thought is linear and logical. You follow rules, solve problems step by step, and filter out distractions. At night, those filters loosen. The prefrontal cortex, which enforces logic and structure, becomes less active in REM sleep. Meanwhile, associative regions of the brain light up, pulling together fragments of memory, perception, and imagination. The result is a stream of images and stories that defy logic but open new pathways. Dreams are the brain at play, exploring connections without constraint. This loosened state is exactly what creativity requires. Many breakthroughs occur not when someone is consciously working on a problem, but when they step away, relax, or sleep. The brain continues to process information in the background, often arriving at solutions unexpectedly. Dreams are one of the most visible signs of this unconscious processing. A scientist might dream of molecules forming patterns, a musician might dream of melodies, an artist might dream of colours and shapes. These dream images can then be translated into waking creativity. Famous examples highlight this process. The chemist Auguste Kekulé described dreaming of a snake biting its own tail, which gave him the insight into the ring structure of benzene. The inventor Elias Howe reportedly dreamed of being attacked with spears that had holes near their tips, inspiring the design of the sewing machine needle. The writer Mary Shelley dreamed of a scientist reanimating a corpse, a vision that became the basis for Frankenstein. Paul McCartney has said that the melody for Yesterday came to him in a dream. These stories illustrate how dreams can bypass the limits of waking thought, presenting solutions or ideas in symbolic or imaginative form. Not every dream leads to a masterpiece, of course. Most are trivial or confusing. But the potential for creativity is built into the system. By breaking apart memories and recombining them, the dreaming brain creates a vast range of possibilities. Some of these combinations are nonsense, but others strike a chord. The role of the dreamer is to notice and capture them. Keeping a dream journal, for example, increases the chance of recognizing useful ideas. Artists and inventors throughout history have kept such journals, recording fragments that later became important. Modern neuroscience helps explain why this process works. During REM sleep, the brain shows patterns of activity similar to wakefulness, but with crucial differences. The default mode network, associated with imagination and self-reflection, is active. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, associated with critical control, is less active. This combination allows free-flowing associations without constant self-censorship. At the same time, emotional centers such as the amygdala are active, giving dream images intensity. This mixture of vividness, freedom, and emotion is ideal for creativity. It generates ideas that are memorable, unusual, and charged with feeling. The connection between dreams and creativity is not only about individual insights, it also reflects the broader role of sleep in learning. When you acquire new skills or knowledge during the day, sleep helps consolidate them. Dreams may be the conscious echo of this process, showing fragments of the new material being integrated. In the process, the brain may discover unexpected links between old and new information. These links are the foundation of creative thought. Artists often describe their dreams as sources of inspiration. The surrealists in the early 20th century deliberately drew on dream imagery, seeing it as a window into unconscious creativity. Salvador Dali experimented with techniques to capture the moments between sleep and wake, holding objects that would fall from his hand as he drifted off, jolting him awake to record the images. Writers such as Jorge Luis Borges and Franz Kafka incorporated dreamlike logic into their stories. These artistic movements show how dream states resonate with the creative impulse, offering material that is strange but meaningful. But dreams do not only inspire art, they can also inspire practical solutions. Engineers, scientists, and mathematicians have reported insights arising from dreams. Sometimes the dream presents a literal solution, but more often it provides a metaphor or image that reorients thinking. The dream bypasses the stuck patterns of waking thought, offering a fresh perspective. This is why people sometimes say, "I'll sleep on it." The phrase reflects real cognitive processes. Sleep allows the brain to keep working in the background, often producing answers that seem sudden but were built through hidden connections. Even ordinary dreamers, not artists or scientists, experience this creative potential. A dream may help someone think differently about a relationship, a problem, or a decision. The strange imagery forces the mind to see the situation from another angle. Waking up with a new perspective is itself a creative act, even if it does not produce art or invention. Dreams democratize creativity, offering everyone glimpses of the mind's capacity to reimagine. Cultural interpretations of this link vary. Some traditions treat dreams as literal messages from higher powers, giving creativity a divine origin. Others see them as personal reflections, emphasizing the dreamer's own unconscious mind. In either case, the connection is recognized. Dreams are valued as sources of ideas and insight, whether spiritual or psychological. The universality of this belief suggests that the creative power of dreams is not an illusion. It is a real feature of how the brain works. At the same time, there is a cautionary side. Not all dream creativity is useful. Some dreams produce chaotic or disturbing images that resist translation. Others inspire ideas that seem profound at night but trivial in the morning. The dreaming brain is prolific but not selective. Its creations require waking judgment to sort what is meaningful from what is noise. This interplay between free dream creativity and rational waking evaluation is what produces true innovation. Neither side alone is sufficient. The practice of lucid dreaming adds another layer. When a dreamer becomes aware, they can sometimes direct the dream toward creative goals. Musicians may experiment with sound, artists with imagery, writers with stories. Because the environment feels real, the rehearsal can be immersive. Some use lucid dreams deliberately for creativity, entering them with questions or intentions. While results vary, the potential illustrates how awareness within dreams can expand their usefulness. Dreams also interact with creativity in a more subtle way, by influencing mood and perspective. A positive dream can lift spirits, making creative work easier. A troubling dream can provoke reflection, sparking new themes. Because dreams are emotionally intense, they leave residues that shape waking thought. This emotional colouring can fuel creative expression, adding depth and urgency. When you think about your own dreams, you may recall moments that felt oddly inventive. Perhaps you dreamed of a new place, a new character, or a new idea that seemed impossible in waking life. Even if you did not turn it into art, the experience itself was a glimpse of your brain's creative power. Dreams remind you that your mind is capable of more than linear thought. It can build entire worlds overnight, worlds filled with invention. This link between dreams and creativity is not only about producing ideas, it also reflects the nature of human imagination itself. To imagine is to step beyond what is. Dreams are the purest form of this capacity, unbound by reality, logic, or consequence. They show what the brain can do when freed from constraint. That same capacity underlies every human creation, from paintings to theories to technologies. Dreams and creativity are not separate. They are expressions of the same underlying ability to connect, combine, and reimagine. And as you follow this thread, the question arises of whether dreams, with all their strangeness, might go even further, whether they could sometimes offer glimpses of events not yet lived, sparking the long-debated idea that dreams can predict the future. Across centuries, people have wondered whether dreams can tell the future. From ancient rulers consulting dream interpreters before wars, to ordinary people waking from a vivid dream and feeling that it came true later, the idea has never disappeared. Nearly every culture has some tradition of prophetic dreaming, where images from the night are treated as glimpses of what is to come. Even in modern times, people report dreams that seem to anticipate events, whether small details of daily life or major life changes. The question of whether dreams can predict the future remains one of the most fascinating and controversial aspects of dream research. From a scientific perspective, there is no evidence that dreams allow people to see into the future in any mystical sense. Dreams are products of the brain, drawing on memory, emotion, and imagination. They are not windows into a supernatural timeline, yet the feeling of prophetic dreams is real, and it deserves explanation. Understanding why people experience them helps reveal how the dreaming brain works. One explanation lies in coincidence. People dream several times a night, every night of their lives. Over the course of months and years, this adds up to thousands of dreams. Most of them are forgotten, and most of them do not match waking events. But occasionally, a dream will resemble something that happens later. Because dreams are often vague or symbolic, it is easy to find connections afterward. If you dream of water and later it rains, or dream of a friend and then they call, the match feels significant. In reality, it may be chance. With enough dreams, coincidences are inevitable. Another explanation is pattern recognition. The brain is always scanning for clues, even unconsciously. You might notice subtle changes in a friend's behavior, in your own body, or in your environment, without being fully aware of it. At night, your brain may weave those subtle cues into a dream. When the event unfolds later, the dream seems prophetic. For example, someone might dream of getting sick before symptoms appear. In fact, their body was already giving signals, fatigue, discomfort, that the brain picked up on. The dream dramatized it, and the waking event confirmed it. This is not prediction in a mystical sense, but in a biological one. Memory also plays a role. People tend to remember dreams that match future events, and forget those that do not. This selective recall creates the impression of prophecy. If you dream of an earthquake and one happens months later, you remember the dream. If you dream of dozens of other events that never occur, you forget them. The brain is biased toward meaningful connections, so it highlights the apparent hits and discards the misses. This is the same process that underlies superstition, where people notice when their lucky charm works and ignore when it does not. Despite these explanations, the belief in prophetic dreams remains powerful. Part of the reason is emotional. Dreams feel real. The vividness and intensity make them hard to dismiss, especially when they align with later events. If you wake from a disturbing dream and then experience something similar, the emotional impact cements the connection. Even if coincidence and selective memory explain it, the feeling of prediction is strong. Historical examples add to the fascination. Ancient texts are filled with accounts of dreams that supposedly foretold victories, disasters, or deaths. Some may have been written after the fact, fitting the dream to the event. Others may reflect the human tendency to see meaning in chance. Yet the sheer number of such accounts shows how deeply the idea of prophetic dreams is embedded in human culture. Modern science has studied the phenomenon more carefully. Experiments asking people to record their dreams and compare them to future events show no evidence of true prediction beyond chance. However, they do reveal how dreams reflect ongoing concerns and perceptions. People dream about what they care about, what they fear, and what they anticipate. Because these concerns often overlap with future events, the dreams may appear predictive. For example, if you're worried about failing an exam, you may dream of failing. If you later do poorly, it seems like prophecy, but in reality it was expectation. There are also examples of creative anticipation. Some people dream of solutions to problems they have been working on, or of future possibilities. This is not mystical, but cognitive. The brain continues to process problems during sleep, exploring scenarios. The dream may present an outcome that later becomes real because the dreamer acts on it. In this sense, dreams can shape the future, not by predicting it, but by influencing choices. If you dream of moving to a new city and wake inspired, you may make it happen. The dream then feels prophetic, though it was actually causal. Cultural interpretations of prophetic dreams vary widely. In some traditions, they are treated as divine messages, in others as warnings, in still others as reflections of destiny. Even in secular societies, people often speak of gut feelings or intuition that emerge in dreams. These beliefs show how hard it is to separate the feeling of prophecy from the experience of dreaming. The human brain is designed to search for patterns and meaning, and dreams are fertile ground for both. Science does recognize that dreams can sometimes anticipate internal states. For example, dreams of illness, fatigue, or stress can precede waking awareness of those conditions. This is because the brain processes subtle signals before they reach consciousness. Similarly, dreams of anxiety about events may anticipate actual difficulties because the brain is already preparing. These are predictive in a narrow sense, reflecting the brain's ability to detect early cues, but they do not involve supernatural foresight. There is also the phenomenon of shared cultural prophecy. During times of collective anxiety, people report similar dreams. Before wars, natural disasters, or pandemics, clusters of people describe dreams of chaos, danger, or upheaval. This does not mean the dreams caused the events or foretold them. Instead, it shows how collective stress shapes dream content. When many people are worried about the same things, their dreams reflect it. Later, when events confirm those worries, the dreams appear prophetic. From a psychological perspective, prophetic dreams may serve as a way of making sense of uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and humans seek control. Believing that dreams can reveal the future offers comfort, a sense of order in chaos. Even if the belief is not scientifically supported, it fulfills a psychological need. Dreams become a tool for coping with the unknown. In some cases, dreams may indeed alter the course of events. If someone dreams of danger and becomes more cautious, they may avoid harm. If they dream of opportunity and act boldly, they may achieve success. The dream shapes behavior, and behavior shapes outcomes. This feedback loop blurs the line between prophecy and influence. The dream did not predict the future, but it helped create it. When you think about your own dreams, you may recall moments that felt predictive. Perhaps you dreamed of someone before they called, or of a place before you visited it. These experiences are powerful, but they do not require supernatural explanation. They show the brain's ability to notice patterns, anticipate possibilities, and weave them into dreams. When the possibility becomes reality, the dream feels prophetic. The fascination with prophetic dreams is unlikely to fade. It touches something deep in human nature, the desire to know what lies ahead. Even as science explains dreams in terms of memory and emotion, people continue to look for meaning. The persistence of this belief shows how dreams straddle the line between biology and mystery, between the known and the unknown. And as the question of prophecy lingers, another puzzle emerges. If dreams can feel predictive even when they are not, why is it that so many are forgotten altogether, slipping away within moments of waking? One of the strangest features of dreaming is how fleeting most of it is. You can spend hours each night immersed in stories that feel vivid and intense, only to wake with almost nothing left in memory. At best, you might catch fragments, an image, a place, a face, a feeling that lingers for a few seconds before slipping away. Sometimes you remember nothing at all. The paradox is striking. Dreams can feel as real as waking life while they're happening, but they vanish almost instantly once the morning light arrives. The question of why dreams are forgotten so quickly has occupied scientists and philosophers for centuries, and modern neuroscience has begun to shed light on the mystery. Forgetting dreams is not a sign that they never happened. During a typical night, most people experience 4 to 6 periods of rapid eye movement sleep, the stage most associated with vivid dreaming. Each of these episodes can last from minutes to nearly an hour. That means the average person spends close to 2 hours a night dreaming, yet only a tiny fraction is remembered. The loss occurs not in the dreaming itself, but in the transfer to memory. To understand why, it helps to look at how memory works in the brain. Memory involves several stages. First, experiences are encoded, then stored, and finally retrieved. During waking life, the hippocampus plays a crucial role in encoding new memories, linking them to existing knowledge and preparing them for long-term storage in the cortex. During sleep, however, the role of the hippocampus changes. Instead of encoding new external events, it replays and consolidates recent experiences. This shift means that while you are dreaming, the hippocampus is less focused on recording the dream itself. It is busy rehearsing information from waking life. As a result, the dream is not treated like a memory to be stored. It is treated like a simulation, a rehearsal, or an internal event that does not need saving. Another factor is neurochemistry. Levels of certain neurotransmitters, particularly norepinephrine, drop sharply during REM sleep. Norepinephrine is involved in attention and memory consolidation. Without it, the ability to stabilize memories weakens. The dream feels vivid in the moment, but the brain lacks the chemical support to preserve it. This explains why even striking dreams fade so quickly upon waking. They were never fully consolidated in the first place. The transition from sleep to wakefulness adds another layer of forgetting. When you wake, your brain rapidly shifts states. The prefrontal cortex, which manages logic and planning, comes online. Attention is drawn to the demands of the morning, sounds, light, thoughts of tasks ahead. In this rush of activity, fragile dream traces are easily overwritten. Unless you focus immediately, the memory dissolves. This is why writing down a dream right after waking increases recall. The act of recording stabilizes the memory before it disappears. Not everyone forgets dreams equally. Some people recall them often, others rarely. Studies show that high dream recallers have different patterns of brain activity. They may wake more often during the night, giving them more chances to encode dreams into memory. They may also have more active regions of the brain associated with attention and memory processing. Personality plays a role too. People who are more reflective, imaginative, or emotionally sensitive tend to remember more dreams. This suggests that forgetting dreams is not universal, but influenced by individual differences. The content of the dream also matters. Emotionally intense dreams are more likely to be remembered. This is because strong emotions activate the amygdala, which interacts with memory systems to enhance storage. A nightmare, for example, may linger for hours, while a neutral dream fades instantly. Emotional salience acts as a marker, telling the brain that the experience matters. Yet even with strong emotions, the memory may remain fragmentary, with only the most striking images preserved. There is also evidence that the way you wake influences recall. Waking suddenly, especially from REM sleep, increases the chance of remembering the dream you were just experiencing. Waking gradually, or from deeper non-REM stages, often leaves nothing. This is why alarms that interrupt REM can boost recall, though they may also leave you feeling groggy. Natural waking, which often occurs at the end of a REM cycle, sometimes brings clearer memories. From an evolutionary perspective, forgetting dreams may even be adaptive. Dreams are filled with strange and sometimes contradictory content. If the brain stored them all as lasting memories, they might clutter or confuse waking life. By allowing most dreams to fade, the brain conserves memory for waking experiences that are more relevant to survival. In this sense, forgetting is not a flaw, but a feature, a filter that keeps imagination separate from reality. Yet despite the tendency to forget, people have long tried to capture their dreams. Ancient cultures kept dream diaries, just as many do today. Artists and writers often keep notebooks by their beds to record fragments before they vanish. This practice works because the act of attention stabilizes memory. By focusing on the dream immediately, you engage the hippocampus and transfer the fragile trace into more durable storage. Without this effort, the memory slips away in minutes. There are also techniques to increase dream recall. Keeping a journal, reflecting on dreams upon waking, and setting the intention to remember can all improve retention. These practices work because they prime the brain to treat dreams as meaningful. When the brain expects to remember, it allocates more resources to encoding. This suggests that forgetting dreams is not entirely inevitable. It can be influenced by attention, motivation, and habit. The mystery of forgetting dreams also intersects with conditions such as lucid dreaming. People who experience lucidity often recall their dreams more vividly. This may be because awareness within the dream strengthens memory encoding. By recognizing the dream as it happens, the dreamer engages the prefrontal cortex, which supports recall. Similarly, people who wake and re-enter the same dream sometimes find their memory strengthened. These exceptions show how fragile but flexible dream memory can be. Neuroscience continues to explore the details. Imaging studies reveal that dream recall correlates with activity in the temporoparietal junction, a region involved in attention to internal states. High dream recallers show stronger activation there, suggesting they are more tuned to their inner experiences. Other studies show differences in sleep architecture, with high recallers experiencing more micro-awakenings that allow encoding. These findings support the idea that forgetting is not absolute but variable, shaped by brain function and sleep patterns. Forgetting dreams also raises philosophical questions. If you spend hours each night in vivid experiences that you cannot remember, what does that mean for your sense of self? Are those dreams part of your life if they vanish without a trace? Neuroscience suggests they are still meaningful, even if forgotten. Dreams play roles in memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and creativity regardless of recall. Their effects may shape waking life indirectly, influencing mood, insight, or problem-solving. Forgetting the content does not erase the function. When you consider your own experience, you may notice that some dreams stay with you for years, while others vanish in moments. The difference often lies in timing, emotion, and attention. The ones you remember are usually those that woke you, stirred strong feelings, or were written down. The rest dissolve into the vast background of unrecorded experience. This is not wasted. It is the brain doing its work quietly, without needing conscious memory. If dreams are so fragile, why do some of them persist so powerfully, shaping your emotions long after waking? When people talk about their dreams, there is always another question in the background. What happens if you do not dream at all? Some people insist they never dream. Others go through stretches of time when they cannot remember anything from the night. And researchers have long wondered what the consequences might be if dreaming truly stopped. Would the brain suffer? Would emotions become harder to manage? Would memory weaken? Or would life continue as normal, with dreaming more of a byproduct than a necessity? The first thing to understand is that almost everyone dreams, whether they remember it or not. Dreaming is most strongly associated with rapid eye movement sleep, which occurs in cycles throughout the night. During REM, the brain shows activity patterns similar to wakefulness, with vivid internal imagery and emotional intensity. Unless a person has a disorder that disrupts REM, they are almost certainly dreaming several times each night. The claim of "I never dream" is almost always a matter of recall. The dreams happen, but the memory does not survive. Still, there are rare situations where dreaming is reduced or absent, and these offer a window into what happens when it does not occur. Some neurological injuries that affect the brainstem, which regulates REM, can diminish or eliminate dreaming. Certain medications, particularly those that suppress REM sleep, can reduce dream frequency, and some people with sleep disorders, such as sleep apnea, experience fragmented REM that interferes with dreaming. In these cases, scientists can observe what happens when dreaming decreases, and the results are telling. One of the most consistent findings is that the loss of REM and dreaming affects emotion. People deprived of REM become irritable, anxious, and emotionally unstable. Experiments in the mid-20th century showed that subjects woken whenever they entered REM became more distressed over time, even if they still got the same number of total sleep hours. Their bodies rested, but their minds struggled. The missing dreams seem to leave a gap in emotional regulation. The idea is that dreaming helps process and integrate emotions, diffusing the intensity of daily experiences. Without it, the emotional load builds. Dream loss also affects memory. REM is believed to play a role in consolidating certain types of learning, especially emotional and procedural memory. People deprived of REM perform worse on tasks that require creative thinking or pattern recognition. They may also struggle to recall emotional content accurately. Dreams appear to be part of the system that replays and strengthens memories. Without them, the process is disrupted, leaving learning incomplete. Creativity may also suffer when dreaming is reduced. As we have seen, dreams allow the brain to combine ideas freely, making novel connections. Without this nightly reorganization, thought may become more rigid. Experiments support this. People deprived of REM show less flexibility in problem solving. Their minds get stuck in conventional patterns, less able to think outside the box. Dreaming, it seems, is part of the brain's way of keeping imagination alive. The sense of self may be affected as well. Dreams create a continuous narrative of experience, even when it is forgotten. Without them, the mind may lose a source of integration. Some patients with neurological damage that eliminates dreaming report a flattening of inner life. Their days feel more mechanical, less infused with imagination. They do not necessarily lose intelligence, but they describe a narrowing of experience. This suggests that dreaming contributes to the richness of consciousness, adding layers even when not remembered. There are, however, exceptions. Some people take medications that suppress REM for years and report no noticeable impact. Others live with conditions that reduce dreaming without obvious harm. This raises the question of whether dreaming is strictly necessary. Perhaps the brain has other ways to process memory and emotion when dreaming is disrupted. Non-REM sleep also contributes to consolidation, and waking reflection can help with emotion. The brain is adaptable, and it may compensate. Still, when researchers study populations with reduced dreaming, subtle deficits often appear. Reaction times are slower, creativity scores drop, and mood regulation weakens. These effects may not be catastrophic, but they suggest that dreaming gives the brain an advantage. It smooths the edges of experience, helping to keep emotions balanced and cognition flexible. Without it, the system still works, but less efficiently. Another way to think about the question is to look at dream recall. People who rarely remember dreams sometimes report feeling that nothing happens at night, yet their emotional and cognitive health remains normal. The difference is that they are dreaming, just not recalling it. The brain gets the benefits of dreaming regardless of recall. This distinction is important. Forgetting dreams is not the same as not dreaming. The former is common and harmless, the latter much rarer and potentially more consequential. There are also conditions where dreaming seems to increase rather than decrease, such as depression or anxiety. People with these disorders often report more vivid or disturbing dreams. This suggests that dreaming itself is not always purely beneficial. Sometimes it mirrors distress, amplifying negative emotions. But even in these cases, the increase shows how closely dreaming is tied to mental health. When emotions are unstable, dreams become more prominent. When dreams vanish, emotions can weaken or destabilize. The absence of dreaming raises deeper philosophical questions too. If much of human creativity, culture, and reflection has been inspired by dreams, what would humanity look like without them? Without dream-inspired art, literature, and insight, culture might be poorer. On an individual level, without dreams, the inner world might feel narrower, less strange, less surprising. Dreams remind people of the mind's capacity to imagine beyond waking limits. Losing them might mean losing part of that imaginative spark. Neuroscience continues to investigate the function of dreaming, and while debates remain, most agree that it plays a role in emotion, memory, and creativity. When dreams are absent, those areas are affected. The impact may not always be dramatic, but it is real. Dreams may not be essential for survival in the way food and water are, but they appear to be essential for flourishing. They make life richer, more balanced, and more adaptable. When you think of your own nights, even if you do not remember your dreams, you can assume they are there. Your brain is busy creating stories, integrating experiences, and balancing emotions. The silence of the morning does not mean nothing happened. It simply means the traces slipped away. But in those rare cases where dreaming truly stops, the difference becomes visible. Emotion frays, memory weakens, creativity dulls. The hidden work of dreaming is revealed by its absence. If dreaming shapes emotion, memory, and imagination so profoundly, then what is its ultimate purpose? Is it merely the byproduct of sleep, or is it a vital function of the brain, one that has been honed through evolution to serve the mind in ways we're only beginning to understand? When the lights go out and the body settles into rest, the brain does not simply switch off, it begins to play. Dreams are the clearest evidence of that play, the arena where the brain tests ideas, replays memories, exaggerates emotions, and imagines possibilities. Calling dreams a midnight playground captures something essential about them. They are not bound by the rules of waking life. They are experiments, rehearsals, simulations, and entertainments, all at once. The brain constructs them out of fragments of the day and echoes of the past, weaving them into strange and vivid stories. Within that world you can fly, fail, fight, love, lose, and discover, all without leaving your bed. From a biological standpoint, the playground is shaped by REM sleep. During these periods, brain activity surges, almost as high as in waking life. The visual cortex lights up, producing vivid imagery. The emotional centers ignite, fueling intensity. At the same time, regions responsible for logic and self-control go quiet, loosening the rules. The result is a state in which anything can happen. The playground has no boundaries. One moment you're in a familiar street, the next in a landscape that could not exist. The characters around you shift and transform. Time stretches or collapses. In this space, the brain is free to play with reality itself. Play, in both children and adults, serves functions beyond entertainment. It is a way of learning, of rehearsing, of exploring. The same applies to dreaming. When you dream, you practice scenarios without real-world consequences. You rehearse fears by running from threats. You rehearse hopes by imagining successes. You test new combinations of ideas by blending them in strange ways. Just as children playing a game of pretend develop skills for life, the dreaming brain develops skills for waking. The playground may be unreal, but the effects carry forward. Consider how many dreams involve danger. Being chased, falling, losing something important. These are common themes. In waking life, danger requires immediate action. In dreams, the brain can practice those responses without risk. It can rehearse the feeling of fear, the act of escape, the strategies of defense. The emotional charge makes the rehearsal memorable, even if the details fade. This is the brain playing with fear, turning it into a simulation that strengthens survival skills. At the same time, many dreams involve exploration, flying, discovering new places, meeting new people. These experiences may have no direct survival value, but they expand imagination. The brain explores what it cannot in waking life, testing boundaries and imagining alternatives. This is play in its purest form, the joy of possibility. Such dreams can inspire creativity, leaving residues that shape art, invention, or problem solving. The playground provides raw material for waking imagination. Social interaction is another part of the playground. Dreams are often filled with people, real or imagined. You argue, connect, compete, or cooperate with them. These scenarios mirror social challenges in waking life. The brain rehearses conversations, interprets expressions, and navigates relationships. Even the presence of strangers reflects this function. Just as children practice social skills in play, adults may practice them in dreams. The playground allows mistakes without consequences, preparing the dreamer for real interactions. The lack of rules in dreams also makes them emotionally powerful. You can experience intense fear, joy, sadness, or love in concentrated form. These emotions may be exaggerated, but they are real in the moment. The brain uses this intensity to process and regulate feelings. By re-experiencing emotions in the playground, the brain integrates them into memory, reducing their raw impact. This is why dreams are often tied to emotional events. They are not random, but shaped by what matters most. The idea of the brain's playground is reinforced by how it draws on memory. Dreams often weave together fragments of recent experiences, older memories, and pure invention. You might find yourself in a childhood home with people you met yesterday, all within an impossible landscape. This blending reflects how the brain stores information. Memories are not isolated units, but networks of associations. Dreams activate and recombine these networks, creating new patterns. The playground is built from the blocks of memory, endlessly reassembled. Some researchers argue that this reassembly serves learning. By mixing old and new, the brain finds connections that were not obvious. This helps integrate new knowledge into existing frameworks. It also fosters creativity, as unrelated ideas come together. The surreal quality of dreams is not meaningless chaos, but the product of recombination. The brain is experimenting, trying out new configurations. The playground is a laboratory as much as an amusement. The universality of dreaming supports this view. Every culture, every person experiences dreams. The details differ, but the patterns are the same. This suggests that dreaming is not an accident, but a feature of the brain's design. Evolution tends to preserve functions that offer benefits. If dreams were useless, they might have disappeared. Instead, they are everywhere, woven into the fabric of sleep. The playground is not a distraction. It is part of being human. Still, not all play is pleasant. Nightmares remind us that the playground can be harsh. The brain sometimes rehearses danger so vividly that it feels overwhelming. Yet even nightmares serve a function. They force the dreamer to confront intense emotions. They may prepare the mind to cope with trauma or alert the sleeper to unresolved stress. The playground can be frightening, but fear is part of learning too. Just as children sometimes scare themselves with games, the brain sometimes pushes the limits. Another aspect of the playground is its unpredictability. Dreams often shift suddenly, with no clear logic. Scenes transform, characters change, plots dissolve. This unpredictability mirrors the unpredictability of life. In waking reality, plans are disrupted, circumstances shift, events unfold without warning. Dreams may prepare the mind for this uncertainty, training it to adapt. The fluidity of the playground becomes practice for the fluidity of existence. The brain's midnight playground also connects to culture. People share and interpret their dreams, turning private experiences into collective ones. Myths, stories, and rituals have been shaped by dream imagery. Artists have drawn from dreams for inspiration. In this way, the playground of one mind becomes part of the playground of society. The creativity of dreaming does not stop at the individual. It spreads, shaping human culture as a whole. Modern neuroscience has begun to reveal the mechanisms of this playground. REM sleep, with its unique brain chemistry, creates the conditions for vivid dreams. Reduced norepinephrine allows freer associations. Increased acetylcholine fuels imagery. The default mode network activates, encouraging imagination. The prefrontal cortex quiets, suspending judgment. Together, these conditions produce the strange, vivid, emotionally charged world of dreams. The playground is not mystical. It is the product of these overlapping systems. Yet the experience it creates feels extraordinary because it departs so far from waking norms. When you consider your own nights, the idea of the playground may feel familiar. You have likely had dreams that felt like games, filled with flights of imagination. You may have had dreams that felt like challenges, testing your limits. You may have had dreams that felt like stories, with plots and characters unfolding. All of these are part of the same process. The brain is active, experimenting, learning, and imagining. The playground takes many forms, but its essence is the same: the freedom to explore. Even forgetting dreams does not erase their impact. The playground still shapes emotion, memory, and creativity, even if you do not recall the details. The benefits come from the process itself, not from conscious memory. Just as a child learns from play, even if they do not remember every game, the brain learns from dreams without needing to record them. The midnight playground works quietly, behind the scenes, enriching waking life. Thinking of dreams this way helps explain why they persist across all people and all times. They are not accidental or trivial. They are part of how the brain functions, as necessary as rest itself. They are the balance to the structured, logical, demanding nature of waking life. At night, the brain is free to loosen, to wander, to invent. The playground opens and the mind steps inside. And when morning comes, the playground closes again. The mind returns to its daily tasks, often with no memory of what happened during the night. Yet the traces remain, in emotions that feel calmer, in ideas that feel fresher, in perspectives that feel renewed. Dreams may vanish from memory, but their influence lingers. The brain has played, and in playing, it has grown. Thank you for sharing this time together. We've travelled through the landscapes of sleep, exploring why the mind invents such vivid worlds each night. Along the way, we've seen how dreams borrow from memory, magnify emotion, rehearse fears, and open the door to imagination. Each part of this journey has reminded us that sleep is not empty, but alive with activity. A quiet theatre where the brain does some of its most important work. As you let yourself drift now, you can carry the thought that every night your mind creates its own midnight playground. Sometimes it fills with stories that feel joyful, sometimes with ones that challenge or frighten. But each of them is part of the process that restores, balances, and prepares you for the day to come. Even when you forget them, those dreams leave their mark, shaping mood, memory, and creativity in ways you may never notice directly but always carry with you. If you've enjoyed spending this time here, you might consider subscribing or sharing this with someone who could use a moment of calm. It helps more than you might imagine, and it means we can keep building these quiet spaces together. For now, though, there is nothing more you need to do. You can let your eyes rest, let your body sink a little deeper into comfort, and let your breathing settle into a rhythm that carries you towards sleep. Tonight, like every night, your brain will open its stage. Whatever appears on it, you can know it is part of the mind's natural work, part of being human, part of the quiet story of rest. So take this moment and let yourself drift. Good night and sweet dreams.